I'm gonna turn the music down and...
Richard, you're mute.
Huh? I unmuted. Hi, Sunday.
Hi.
Hey, Sunday.
Hello.
How was your stream, buddy? How'd it go?
Oh, I'm so tired, but it went fine. We had a nice conversation in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think these calls are taking you out, man. I don't know. You're getting assassinated by these calls. They're wearing you down.
I pulled this one in on purpose, and she was nice.
Yeah, I think so too. She was pleasant. Very polite.
I don't get a lot of pleasant calls, and frankly, I'm on 0 spoons today, so I was grateful for the break.
Mm-hmm.
But I need to go deal with life stuff. I just wanted to make sure that you knew, Richard, that nobody could hear you speaking because I saw your mouth moving on screen, and I was filled with horror. But I guess you had a plan.
Yes, I did.
All right, well, have fun. And by the way, chat, remember to subscribe to the GSL. I will be on here very frequently. We're hoping to get Brooks on here frequently as well. Ambrose will be coming back to it too. And so on. Bye.
Yes, very exciting.
Doodles.
See you.
Ciao, bella.
And it's Sure Shot. Okay. So, hold on. Is my mic not coming through? I see my avatar isn't lighting up. That's unfortunate. Anyway, today we're going to be reacting to 2 videos from Breaking Down Patriarchy.
Introduce, or are you like, you're too good for that? You're the guy in the background. Shadowy figure.
Sending.
You know they have a term for that. Yeah, no. They have a political term for this. It's called an eminence grise. You know that? It's like when you're like the guy in the background. You're like the real kind of cause of things, but no one knows who you are.
Yeah, the gray eminence.
Like,
yeah.
The gray eminence, like a Russian.
Yeah, and it's eminence gris. Yeah.
Eminence gris.
Eminence gris.
You put such a Soviet spin in your French. Anyway, let's get going.
It's inevitable. Do you want to talk about where we found the channel, or like who she is generally?
Well, hold on. We should say who we are first. My God, for the people who are new.
Yeah, true.
Hello, everyone.
Ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's roll out the red carpet. So you're watching. What is this? Our first live stream of like React content. So we are the mods of the GSL server. I'm Imran. This is Richard. Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Richard.
Sure Shot.
I'm Sure Shot.
And we don't need August to speak. No, I'm joking. August.
What the hell? Hello, I'm August. Some of you might know me from the QC.
Yeah. So for those of you who were here when we did the some of the Raz article reactions, that very long Substack article dealing with the subject of lust and the philosophy about lust, these voices will be familiar to you. If you're in the GSL, you've seen us around, just like messing about or writing long-winded rants about things, usually me. But we thought instead of doing like more kind of straight up like long form academic reviews or whatever, we'd also intersperse that with some React content, and that's what we're doing today. We have some videos lined up for you. They're not complete slop. There are things that are of interest, but also a more kind of casual, chill sort of atmosphere. So that's what we have on. So actually, Richard, if you want to tell them what's on the docket, that would be wonderful.
Right. So today we're going over 2 videos from this channel, Breaking Down Patriarchy. It's like a sort of corporate themed like advocacy history podcast that covers various topics having to do with patriarchy. We reviewed these 2 videos before, sort of. We watched like maybe 5 minutes of each. And we also watched one about the question of whether patriarchy is built into us genetically. So it's these types of questions, like breaking down the arguments that people make in favor of patriarchy in like the discourse today. So this first video that we're going to go over is about is closely related to the hero's journey by Joseph Campbell, and it's one of his students wrote a heroine's journey, or heroine's journey, to work for women. And then the second video that's on our docket is how patriarchy hijacks our minds. And that's has a lot to do with like the male gaze and how we develop like a masculine POV as or like how women develop a masculine POV that's built into them.
Yeah. I just wanted to give one more piece of background on the heroine's journey. Specifically, it was built for like a psychological model.
Yes.
It's not necessarily like the unimyth, or I forget what the term is, but the Joseph Campbell thing, monomyth. Yeah, thank you. Is a lot more universalized than the heroine's journey.
Yeah. So with
Wait, quick thing though.
Okay.
Did y'all learn about the hero's journey in school?
No.
I swear to
In
God, when
school?
I was in like, oh, really? See, that's how I know, Richard. That's how your school was so bourgeois.
We learned
when I was in school,
Aristotle's what do they call it? The sort of theory of storytelling, which is not too dissimilar.
Really?
Yeah.
No shit. Aristotle.
We learned Greek myth, and so we learned it kind of in the context of what's the name of
The Odyssey?
the Greek hero goes down to meet Hades?
Oh,
To save his lover.
Orpheus? Orpheus. and
Orpheus,
Eurydice.
yeah.
Yeah, Orpheus. Holy
Yeah.
shit, how did I forget this? Orpheus, yeah. God, y'all were like in some great fucking school environments. we did like the mandatory like, oh, we got to read the Odyssey, but we didn't actually read the Odyssey. We just kind of like read like bits and pieces and then had like annoying commentary. But we did do Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, and I distinctly remember like it was more or less treated as like serious, sort of serious academic account, which is crazy in hindsight. But yeah, this guy's been with me forever. I can't get him out of me. Pause. All right, let's go. Let's get this going.
Oh, wait, Richard. Are you going to screen share to us so that we can view as well?
Oh yes, of course. Let me do that.
Thank you.
Applications. There we go. Okay.
Great, thanks.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
One day, a few years ago, I saw a woman reading this book, The Heroine's Journey, Woman's Quest for Wholeness by Maureen Murdoch. I had never heard of the book before, but I guessed it was a
I think this intro is so funny because it's so obviously not true.
Hey, yo, why is she holding it like that? Hold on, why is she? You know how like Sunday went over that video of the guy who was like critiquing
Oh yeah, he was like he's
Elliot
holding it
Pang.
like it's precious.
I know, no. Sunday defended it though, but she's holding it like You ever seen? Okay, people here don't really play sports. You ever have someone like give you like a ball and you don't really know how to hold it, and they look at you with absolute disgust? They're like, I can't believe I shared an earth with this person. That's how I feel about the way she's holding this. Anyway, let's continue.
Yeah, she's holding it like she doesn't hold books often, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Don't want to prejudge too much on that, but it is funny. Oh. We buffering?
Yeah, I don't know why my
Also want to note
laptop
that
does
is a decently thick book, and it does not appear to have any wear on it.
Campbell's The Hero's Journey, which is like an archetypal map of myths and stories across cultures and time periods. I looked at The Heroine's Journey and I thought, that looks like a bunch of girly woo-woo self-help nonsense. And I went on my way, reading John Stuart Mill and Simone de Beauvoir and Judith Butler, and I enrolled in a PhD program. But then suddenly, in 2025, some of my life pillars unexpectedly crumbled, and I found myself sitting in what I can only describe as the wreckage of my ego, with a strong hunch that I was going through something very human, but also, weirdly and somewhat uncomfortably for me, something specifically feminine. I remembered the title, The Heroine's Journey, from 5 years before, and I had to confront the internalized misogyny that made me dismiss it before. I bought it and I read it in 2 days, highlighting and scribbling notes the whole way through. So, if you're a woman, or you know and care about a woman, say your prayers to Athena, pack some limbus bread, and charge up your lightsaber. We're going
is
on
this
a
music from her?
journey.
This is
No, let me try that
Yes,
again.
it's from her.
Put on your ruby slippers,
That's crazy.
grab your bow and arrow, and push out to sea. We're going on a woman's archetypal journey. I've been debating how personal to be in this episode, and I decided that I'm going to be vulnerable and share some of my own journey candidly as we go. So, in that spirit, let's start with 2 disclaimers from me. Because Murdoch is a trained Jungian psychologist, she illustrates some points with myths. Now, I love a good fable, a good story, a good myth, but sometimes when she talks about like going into the cave or facing the dragon or reconnecting with the Great Mother, I feel a little exasperated. Like, what do you actually mean? We are real people with jobs and dishes to wash. So where are
Okay.
these?
Yeah, it's like there's
This is
some
an okay point.
literary context that's just missing from I don't know her name actually. That's missing from her and would be missing from me as well if
Maureen
I were
Murdoch.
to No.
Her name is Amy. Amy.
Amy.
Oh, you're talking about this? Oh, this lady. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What is her name
Amy
actually? We can probably find that.
Amy.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at it now. Amy.
Amy what?
Okay.
Alabest.
Alabest?
I think Allebest.
Okay, that's how I imagined it.
Okay, yeah. I was looking at her her bio. I wanted to see what her PhD is in.
What is it in?
I don't know.
Doesn't
Oh,
say.
maybe she didn't get one though, right? She said she was kind of on the track, but I don't know if she ever actually achieved it. No.
That's a good point.
Anyway, it happens.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she only has a master's. She has a master's. It doesn't say in what.
I wonder if
Interesting.
it's true that she enrolled in a PhD program because the rest of the story that she told in the beginning was
Caves and mythical
definitely not
creatures you
true.
speak of. So trust that in this episode, I will focus on practical, real-world application. Also, I'm still figuring out how I feel about masculine and feminine labels.
Wait, pause it real
I
quick.
tend to be...
Oh, actually, I'll have to check the specific video, but it seems like she has a writer as well, which I didn't realize.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. These videos are produced in like a style that implies there's a lot of people working on them.
Let this internet.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, this one was written by her.
Okay. Yeah, that also makes sense.
Be kind of wary of them because they always seem to devolve into binaries of masculine equals sun, feminine equals moon, masculine equals rational, feminine equals intuitive, masculine equals active, feminine equals passive. And then we're right back into a male-dominated hierarchy where masculine equals strong and leader, and feminine equals weak and follower. And for me, it doesn't really solve the problem to say that everyone has masculine and feminine inside them. That's true, but if I'm living in a feminine body, in a female body, I'm sorry, but whatever society thinks is feminine is just going to be lumped on me as a default. I believe that all human beings, regardless of gender...
I don't think that's great gender analysis. She claims to have read. I would expect something a little bit more incisive from someone who's read Butler and de Beauvoir.
Yeah, she doesn't seem to be questioning this bifurcation at a basic level.
Well, she's saying it's something that society is putting on her as having a feminine body. But the way that she's talking about femininity and femaleness seems a little bit more uncritical.
Yeah, actually, de Beauvoir doesn't seem to critique it as much as I expected that she would.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that later feminists, I think, took issue with de Beauvoir on.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah,
like
but I
post
was going to say that
Judith
de
Butler.
Beauvoir also talks about myth and feminine myth in The Second Sex.
Right.
So I'm surprised that that's not being noted yet, especially because she says she read the book first.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean,
Anyway, we'll get there as I learn what the heroine's journey actually is.
oh, Gemt, in the opening, she said that she read Butler and Beauvoir and someone else. I can't remember.
Um, it was John Stuart Mill's The Subjugation of Women.
Ah, thank you.
There was something else I was going to say, but I forgot.
Need all the tools in the toolbox: reason and intuition, giving and receiving, working and resting, precision and flexibility. I don't love labeling those tools as masculine or feminine. But with that said, girls and women are raised with similar experiences in our culture. So when we say women tend to experience this or that, or women tend to need this or that, that's at least in part because of the culture that shapes our psyches as girls and women. So with that established, let's learn a little bit about where this book, The Heroine's Journey, came from. Maureen Murdoch was born in 1945, and during the 1970s and 80s, she was a Jungian psychologist and a student of Joseph Campbell. Campbell had published his famous book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, in 1949. This was the book that pointed out the archetypal pattern of the hero's journey. In the 80s, Murdoch started noticing that the hero's journey didn't exactly fit her experience, nor did it adequately track the lives of the women that she was seeing in her practice as a therapist. So she started developing the idea of a separate heroine's journey. She took this idea to Joseph Campbell in 1983, and Campbell responded, "Women don't need to make the journey. In the whole mythological journey, the woman is there. All she has to do is realize that she's the place that people are trying to get to."
Actually, in reading de Beauvoir, there's are a couple of authors that she analyzes that say something similar. For example, D.H. Lawrence. He sees the woman as like closely tied to the sublime, but also so man is accesses the infinite through her. But she's not able to
I
access
mean,
it
that's
herself.
sort of a common thing in psychoanalysis and the history of Western philosophy generally. I would refer here to woman as body, for example, where there's this notion of there being sort of like it's tied in with the whole like active passive thing of masculinity and femininity, where there's this nature culture thing going on, where there's culture, which is the thing of men, where they're active and doing all these things in the history of Western philosophy. This was how it was considered. And then there's women who were sort of in between, right? And closer to nature, closer to sometimes like closer to the sublime, uh, closer to the earth.
Mhm.
And so this that gets carried on even like my Lacan's not great, but Lacan does some similar things as well. Derrida, I think, relatively famously said that there's only one sex. This is a kind of a common thing in psychoanalysis. Everything is structured around the masculine, even going back to Freud, right? And the whole Oedipus complex, castration.
But this is very true. Really good point. By the way, someone who commits this kind of analysis or produces this as a kind of metaphor is also Marx, interestingly enough. Why? Because Marx is a reader of William Petty. And so if you read Capital in the first chapter, he is going to more or less lift Petty's notion of what he calls the earth mother and labor father. So a commodity, really any useful object that has to be created, is the result of this labor father acting upon the earth mother, and you have the same reduplication of an active passive dynamic. And Marx basically just kind of picks this up somewhat metaphorically in the first chapter of Capital. So it has a lot of purchase, and it is kind of scattered throughout the history of philosophy. This is a very good point. I agree.
Mm-hmm. I think what Amy's getting at here that's also different is that in addition to the nature culture distinction that is associated with the gap between men and women, there's the fact that men find their end in union with a woman and thus with nature. That kind of seems counterintuitive to me in a way. Like, instead of advancing to a higher plane, like farther away from nature, and like some sort of supreme manliness, um, it's in descending back down through to earth in a way that he transcends manhood or like humanness.
This reminds me. I think it was de Beauvoir, certainly, who said that a woman is construed as imminence with an A, not imminence as in this event is imminent, it's oncoming, but imminence with an A, which is a bit more philosophical, which tends to relate to something like interiority, insideness, to be within something. And so imminence here, from a philosophical perspective, tends to mean something like the terrestrial world of finitude and nature and all this sort of a thing, vis-a-vis, meaning against, transcendence. So we have two interesting dynamics here, right? One where woman is immanence, poses immanence, right? In precisely the way that August was talking about. But interestingly enough, man is transcendent precisely because he is aligned with a masculine god, a masculine deity, oftentimes, who is precisely in his likeness. We are given consciousness. Now, this is interesting because when you think about the split between man and nature, it is historically understood as a division between those beings which bear that resemblance to God in their active conscious intellect, vis-a-vis basically everything else in the world. And this is precisely where we begin to see something like a sharp subject-object distinction that we tend to use in philosophy. The subject tends to be that which is endowed with a certain kind of consciousness, which historically, again, has been considered to be that which is, this is how God has made us in his image. Right? Crucially. So the masculinity has a certain alignment with the transcendent, vis-a-vis femininity, which has a certain alignment with the immanent. And so it's not simply that you have a dualistic relation between the two, but it's staggered, right? But there's a hierarchy, there's an ordering, there's in some discourses they call it a markedness, but that's a little bit different. But yeah, absolutely. And just kind of going off of what you're saying about this whole divine thing, basically.
I see for some reason this link is updating. It says t equals 292 seconds. I wonder if that has anything to do with it.
I was so mad when I read that. But I wasn't surprised because that's the definition of benevolent patriarchy, a man putting a woman on a pedestal and reducing her to an object that helps him in his life. It seems that he was oblivious to the fact that
Yeah, de Beauvoir makes this critique of authors that put women on a pedestal. Specifically Breton, who she describes as poetic. He puts women on a pedestal and thus like deprives them of subjectivity.
hero's journey only applied to men, not universally to all people. and that women, as humans who are socialized completely differently from men and have very different life experiences,
Pause real quick.
would need their own.
She mentions the hero's journey only applied to men. I don't think, at least, I think a lot of Jungians and other people who are doing like monomyth stuff, they did actually end up using the hero's journey for women, even though it is male centric. And I think that this became more common over time as well. But she is right that it's centered around, obviously, like a certain masculine myth, obviously. Anyway.
Journey, and not just a journey to help men become whole. Maureen Murdoch knew that women were the main characters in their own psycho-spiritual journeys, so she ignored Campbell's opinion and wrote The Heroine's Journey, which was published in 1990 and became hugely popular. So here is Murdoch's model. It has 10 stages which progress more or less linearly, but can also overlap or be switched around. First, a baby girl is born into the world. She opens her eyes and begins to take it all in. Gradually, over the course of countless learning moments, she notices, without even realizing that she's noticing, that the people in charge of the world are men. This might be spelled out explicitly in religious texts or rules, but more often she learns through observation, watching the dynamics between her parents, in her faith community, in books, on TV. She realizes that, as a girl, she will grow to inhabit the second-class, subservient role occupied by the women that she observes around her. That leads her to
Pause it real
step
quick.
1 of the heroine's journey.
I think this is a little bit of an odd framing, especially considering like this Amy having like a feminist background. If you read someone like I mean, a lot of the feminists, but like Bell Hooks, for example, talks about the ways that patriarchy is enforced violently on children. Like she's doing it like media theory, where it's like, oh, people watch behaviors and they copy them.
Just kind of passively receive it.
Yeah, that's a part of it. But even when it comes to like school, think about like segregated sports, for example. All these are not like passively enforced things. These are things that are like
immediate and often violent
immediate,
in the life of a child. Yeah.
Not just in their life, but like if you break this, like if you go into the wrong locker room, you're going to be in a lot of trouble for lots of different reasons.
Or if you do certain things, or if you act certain ways, you're going to be bullied.
Yeah,
intensively.
absolutely. Yeah. You're going to be bullied. You're going to be. I mean, it's common to be disciplined by your parents. These things are enforced pretty brutally.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that.
And so I think the problem with that engenders is going forward is this idea that it's something that we just receive and not something that is literally enforced upon us and our bodies as at a physical level.
Sure. Are you saying the body keeps a score? Come on, bro. We're not doing that here. No, I mean, I think this is true.
No, I'm thinking more in terms of Foucault right now.
No, yeah, that's where I was heading as well in my own thinking. This is all, literally disciplinary. And, Foucault has this whole thing about the production of the docile body. And people tend to take that in a very kind of agendered way because it does kind of span the gender aspect to a certain extent. Every body must become docile in a certain sense insofar as it's being acted upon within a certain social setting. But there are gendered inflections, right? There are gendered inflections. When I was in school, weirdly enough, I don't know if people really read this particular Shakespeare play in school. When I was in school, one of the plays we were given was The Taming of the Shrew. And I don't think I've seen shrew be used as a serious insult for a woman like ever. But the idea was that a shrew was a woman who basically was gender nonconforming in the sense that she would have a very masculine character, quote unquote. This meaning that she was assertive, that she had a
Right.
certain kind of
Sort of often.
stark independence. Yeah.
In
And
terms of the
lacked
stereotype, yes.
right, exactly. She wasn't demure or anything like this. If you gave her a cup of coffee she didn't like, maybe she'd spit it out. Who knows? Um, and I mean that. So the production of the docile body is taken in its most extreme sense when it comes to women historically. Like they really are training you into a docility in the utmost that one can consider that. Um, so I like that point, August. It's very true. It's at the barrel of the gun, if you will, to speak only somewhat metaphorically.
Docility
Yeah,
par excellence. Yeah.
yeah, precisely.
This reminds me of the time that I was playing Overwatch and then I rolled out on a support that does damage, and then they were like, "You're a girl, you should go play Mercy," which is a character that is the one character that doesn't like get to do anything actively in the game.
Oh my god.
In 2026, were you playing like what was like the age group that you were playing with? Who said this?
I'm not really sure. Probably my age. Very sad.
Damn, that's rough. That's something I would expect from like a 12-year-old, but I guess
Yeah, it was bad.
That's
They
where we
were
really are.
There's something really,
Zoomers, I think.
there's something really like thespian about that. No, they're like trying to play house with you. They're like, okay, now you have to be the mommy
Mhm.
in this in this fucking scenario. It's crazy.
Very Oedipal.
Yeah.
Journey. Shift from feminine to masculine. The heroine distances herself from things that her culture deems feminine. Often, this rejection of the feminine causes a breach in the real, personal relationship between the girl and her mother, especially if the mother seems weak and powerless. In turn, the heroine starts to hate and fear the feminine parts of herself, not wanting to turn into her mother or the kind of women that she sees in her culture. She may still be tied to the feminine, but in this stage, she increasingly resents that attachment. I'm embarrassed
about to say, how many
admit
Disney movies
but
is this
I
the
used
plot
to
of?
have dreams that I was beating up my grandma. She was going through a divorce when I was little, and I remember her crying and pining for my grandfather and holding me too tight on her lap. And then when I got a little older, I remember her sitting in a rocking chair, crocheting and doing crossword puzzles, but just kind of checked out from the world. She seemed to me like she gave up on life so early. And I think I was terrified of becoming like her and like the many, many women that I saw around me who seemed meek and dependent on men. Step 2, identification with the masculine. At this point, the heroine begins to identify with external masculine values. She might idolize her dad, as Maureen Murdoch did. She writes, "Most women will do anything to please their fathers. They desperately want the attention of the male gods. Even if a man is aloof and judgmental, he still carries the power to determine how his daughter will function in relationship to him as well as to other men in the world." She also writes that during this phase, the heroine often...
That's very Freudian. I was also gonna say.
Yeah.
I
mean,
really
this whole
am
thing is-
transgender because I don't relate to this at all.
Yeah, I mean, this whole remember when this was written as well? It's what is it? Early 90s? Like 1990. And so it's off the back of this sort of couple decades of like feminism, and then this sort of like, I don't know, the 90s has this like cool down of feminism, but there's still sort of these
Also kind of contemporary with the mythopoeic men's movement.
yes, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, Young and all that stuff was huge
Mhm.
in the 90s.
And John Campbell.
And bringing back the idea of myth. Yeah, Campbell, Young. I mean, Campbell uses young, right, a lot,
Mhm.
and yeah, this idea of like the feminist being like, or the like rebellious teenager being this sort of like tomboyish thing was super super common. I mean, even in the early 2000s, it was this idea of like the the uh young woman who like grows resentful of femininity. Very common trope.
Mhm. As this woman who was obsessed with pleasing her father.
True, and there was also this like fear at the time too, even early into, like, you can see it from some of the like suffrage, like anti-suffragist
Mm.
artwork and stuff. They'll talk. There's this like constant fear of women becoming men, of women becoming masculine, right?
Yeah, I wonder if the "I'm not like other girls" thing is a way of trying to reclaim power. Probably.
There's a lot of ways someone can be not like other girls, so I think it really depends.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
not like
that's a
other
tricky
girls
one.
in the tomboyish sense.
Uh, yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
I,
I'm not sure I'm familiar enough. I'd have to think about that.
I mean, it's. I think you could delineate a case where that's certainly a thing that happens.
Mhm.
I mean, absolutely. I do want to say that the masculine fear of like the ascend. I don't know if I want to say the ascendancy, but of women taking up conventionally masculine roles. I think that might come from a place of, um, you know, oftentimes you'll be going like TikTok or whatever, and you'll see someone who's kind of like ranting at their camera. And if you have like a more progressive TikTok page, it'll probably be like a woman who's ranting about men. I have like my page is like 80% women ranting about men on like my social media at this point. And sometimes they'll say something like, they're afraid when you don't need them anymore. Meaning, like, say for example, a woman is like saying this about men in general or something like this. And I do think I do think there is something to that, historically speaking,
Mm.
where this shift from someone needing you to someone wanting you is a very profound thing. Um, because, and I hesitate to make it sound like love is a choice or whatever. I think it's a little bit more complicated. But the sense that someone can drop you if they
Right,
want
right. I
to.
mean, traditionally, marriage like was a social and then a very like social financial arrangement. Um, like it the where the woman was very much dependent on the man for everything. Like you couldn't open a fucking bank account. What? How are you going to,
I mean,
go
before
on
a certain
Facebook about
period,
your
being a single
opinion?
mother was basically a death sentence.
Right? Yeah, and that's. I mean, even
Yeah.
you'll see now, red pill type people talking about how like that's what we need to return to, right? This is like the reason that they don't have a girlfriend is because women are independent,
Yeah.
right?
It's crazy on that thing. Sure shot. No, you're right, August. But on that thing, sure shot. I still see single mom rhetoric. I still see it.
Mhm.
It
Oh
gets
yeah,
even
it's still
crazier when there's a
operating.
racial
Yeah.
element too.
Sorry, what do you
Yeah,
mean by single
totally.
mom rhetoric?
If when
So
it's
so
like
the rhetoric that
related with welfare.
Mm.
that and also a lot of social ills
Mhm.
are the result of single motherhood in particular. Now, here's the thing. Single parenthood is difficult for various reasons, and there is an argument to be made about having more than one parent in order to support like a fully growing child. That being said though, the focus is on the fact that it's a mom. You don't really
Right.
see these things for single dadhood. It's always single motherhood that
Mhm.
becomes this like your kid is destined to be completely cooked, and it's precisely because they need a dad in the house, right? It's not just
Mhm.
they need another parent; you needed the father to come in, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You see this. This actually is a little bit so. As a black person, this actually is an entire discourse in the black community as well,
Yeah.
where even and people will say this with really good intentions. They'll just be like, "Oh, we need more." The problem is that we don't have fathers raising their boys anymore. And so you end up again with this conflation of the necessity to have more parents around with the necessity to have parents of a particular gender around in order to rear a child correctly. So yeah, you still see that rhetoric around. It's very interesting, but it takes on different forms.
To go back to the point about all of this being very Freudian, it's a very Freudian notion of like that they need to be properly Oedipalized, right? To be a functional member of society. They need to have like a certain strictness from their father. Their father needs to be laying down the law.
Exactly. Yeah. It always comes back down to that Oedipal relation and like the discipline that it entails. I think so.
Hears men ridicule and criticize the feminine, and that in response to this, she aligns herself with men, claiming that she's not like the other girls. And then Murdoch points out something else that's really important. She says this stage involves an identification with the masculine, but not with one's inner personal masculinity. Rather, it's the outer patriarchal masculine whose driving force is power. This was helpful for me to read because I had the question.
Yeah.
So there's this idea operating here that there's this internal true self.
Yep.
And then there's this external socially imposed.
The whole Jungian thing of there being like this internal masculine and feminine that are sort of like at war with each other and have to be put in balance.
The animus and the anima.
Right. Or Jordan Peterson is it's the same thing. He just changed it into the what is it? The Dragon of Chaos.
Yeah. The bifurcation away from nature fundamentally. We keep going back to this.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, this is
the origin of all of our problems. This is why we have Trump. Honestly. Probably more true in ways that I probably can't fully elaborate, but yeah.
Okay.
I keep looking at the statue she has over here.
How do we know the difference between aligning ourselves?
This idea, though, of the like inner non-patriarchal masculinity, like approaching this from the point of the view of like this already fully formed whole essence, it's silly, obviously. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. See, it's not an internet issue. I have this much loaded.
With oppressive masculine power and the healthy masculine in our own selves. I'll give you an example. During college, I didn't wear makeup or the color pink. Was that me aligning myself with patriarchy? Or was I just experimenting healthily and finding my authentic self? It's hard to know, but I can remember some things from that period that I know were 100% betraying my real self to align myself with Ben. One time, when my now husband and I were freshmen in college, we walked through a room where a young woman was singing a classical aria.
Man, appealing
Eric
to
and
the
I had
real
just started dating, so he didn't know.
In terms of masculine and feminine, as someone who's read Butler, is really odd.
Mm-hmm.
Like Butler is kind of a more of a radical than almost anyone on this topic in terms of like.
Well, I mean, just with the way
away
that
from gender pretty much entirely, like away from gendering.
Yeah.
Which
Well, I mean, just the way that she's narrating this as a relation to her own life, as a direct relation to her own life experience. I mean, she's clearly invested in trying to find herself in this, right?
Yeah.
Listen. I'll do you one better too. It's interesting, not just with Butler, but the fact that she's read de Beauvoir as well, and is thinking this way because, and apparently Sartre, because she's also read of Jean-Paul Sartre. Because when people do, so people don't actually know where the whole one is not born a woman, one becomes a woman, where that actually comes from theoretically. Because of the proximity between de Beauvoir and Sartre, that's a kind of quintessentially existentialist maneuver, where you say that the existence comes before the essence. And all that really means is that in other words, the embodied life is prior to what one ends up, what one is, more or less, right? It's that becoming aspect. It's reversed because classically, when philosophers think the essence determines the existence, right? Classically, there is something fundamental about you that just is, and it's unchangeable, and it simply is that thing, and then it determines your experience in the world.
Yeah, form imposed
Sartre
on matter.
Yeah, precisely. And so Sartre tries to flip this in his own kind of existentialist formulation, and de Beauvoir is going to see that and say, aha, wait a minute, we can say that about women. This is exactly how I relate to my own gendered experience. And so, and of course, when you do that kind of analysis, the idea of a true self becomes very dubious. For Sartre, the notion of a true inside self is also very dubious, right? So for Butler, it's weird. For de Beauvoir, it's weird. For Sartre, it's weird. For a lot of the people that she seems to be reading, that's a very weird thing to hold on to, this notion of a true self that one must align oneself towards in some ultimate sense.
I actually I reached the part in the book where de Beauvoir says one is not born but rather becomes a woman today, which is very exciting. Do you guys mind if I read a bit?
Did you get like a ding?
Yeah,
was there like a bell that rung when you get the achievement unlocked? Yeah. No,
like,
go ahead, please read it for us.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Part 4, The Formative Years, Chapter 12, Childhood. One is not born, but rather becomes a woman. No biological, psychological, or economic fate determines the figure that the human female presents in society. It is civilization as a whole that produces this creature, intermediate between male and eunuch, which is described as feminine. Only the intervention of somebody else can establish an individual as an other. Insofar as he exists in and for himself, the child would hardly be able to think of himself as sexually differentiated. In girls as in boys, the body is first of all the radiation of a subjectivity, the instrument that makes possible the comprehension of the world. It is through the eyes, the hands, that children apprehend the universe, and not through the sexual parts. The dramas of birth and of weaning unfold after the same fashion for nurslings of both sexes. These have the same interests and the same pleasures. Sucking is at first the source of their most agreeable sensations. Then they go through an anal phase in which they get their greatest satisfactions from excretory functions, which they have in common. Their genital development is analogous. They explore their bodies with the same curiosity and the same indifference. From clitoris and penis they derive the same vague pleasure. As their sensibility comes to require an object, it is turned towards the mother. The soft, smooth, resilient feminine flesh is what arouses sexual desires, and these desires are prehensile. The girl, like the boy, kisses, handles, and caresses her mother in an aggressive way. They feel the same jealousy if a new child is born, and they show it in similar behavior patterns. Rage, sulkiness, urinary difficulties, and they resort to the same coquettish tricks to gain the love of adults. Up to the age of 12, the little girl is as strong as her brothers, and she shows the same mental powers. There is no field where she is debarred from engaging in rivalry with them. If, well before puberty, and sometimes even from early infancy, she seems to us to be already sexually determined, this is not because mysterious instincts directly doom her to passivity, coquetry, maternity. It is because the influence of others upon the child is a factor, almost from the start, and thus she is indoctrinated with her vocation from her earliest years.
This is just straight up Freud.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's Freud, but it's also criticisms of the way that Freud centers masculinity. But yeah, it is straight up Freud as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it's. I mean, the operative thing here is the fact that what does de Beauvoir give us? She gives us a litany of experiences, a fundamental formative experiences that one has to traverse through, to pass through in order to become the thing, to become the appellation. And obviously, it's not a question of some true femininity that one is aligning towards, right? It's a question of formation in the most serious way. In the same sense that when I have a piece of clay, it wasn't destined to be, unless you're like an Aristotelian or something, it wasn't destined to become whatever thing I molded it into. It became that way through a process that wasn't any question of alignment, but simply a question of a generativity. If you see what I mean by this.
Yeah, it's an active process.
Yeah, for sure, exactly. But thank you, Richard, for reading that out. I'm
Mhm.
proud of you. Everyone, give Richard a
I'm
round of
curious,
applause.
when she says becomes a woman, does she mean it in the sense of an end point, or in the sense of becoming, as in like an
Ooh,
ongoing
that's a
Becoming
good
constantly
question.
happening. Yeah.
I think here it's more like an end point, right? Because she's indoctrinated from the start, and then it's not that she's being continuously indoctrinated.
Okay. I'm excited for the Beauvoir reading.
Yeah. It's a secret, guys. There's gonna be a second sex reading.
There is.
Don't tell anyone.
Look out for that. Yeah.
That my entire life had been spent
Don't tell all
training
your
in
friends
classical piano and
and
voice.
anyone who might be
He
interested.
commented, "Ugh, I hate that kind of music." I didn't say anything, but I stopped singing for years. Step 3, the road of
I feel
trials.
so bad for her.
This is the part of the journey where the heroine makes her way out into the world. She goes to college, gets a job, maybe goes to graduate school, maybe gets a better job. She's learning and growing. She's slaying dragons and outsmarting ogres. Now, at this part of the story, I thought I wasn't going to be able to relate at all. Maureen Murdoch came of age in the heyday of the second wave of feminism during the women can do it all and have it all era. She writes about women in this stage facing great trials and emerging victorious, earning applause and building an impressive masculine reputation. Many of you watching this video probably followed a similar path, but not me. I was raised in a patriarchal religious kind of bubble where I was taught to marry young, have lots of kids.
I believe she's
and
ex-Mormon, by the way.
definitely not work outside the home. I graduated from college, married and pregnant, and I only worked for 9 months before I had my first baby. And I was then immersed in the feminine world of care work as I had 4 kids by age 31. So, as I said, I didn't think this part of the heroine's journey would apply to me until I read this. The most challenging dragon of all is the societal reptile that smiles and says, "Yes, dear, you can do anything you want to do." When what this dragon really means is, "Yes, dear, you can do anything you want to do as long as you do what we want you to do." For women in the non-religious patriarchal world, the dragon requires the heroine to hustle to prove her worth, working around the clock, but still not getting promoted, still dealing with sexual harassment and never complaining. Oh, and also having children, but with no childcare, and all the while still doing all the domestic work at home. On the religious
I have no issue
patriarchal
with this
path,
point.
the
This is-
heroine makes her life
the myth of
decisions based on what
meritocracy.
her male religious leaders tell her to do, hustling to prove her worth by being obedient and providing free labor for the church and the broader community and having lots of kids with no complaints about not having a voice. To be fair, heroines on both paths acquire really important skills in this stage of the journey, and they can be really good at winning at their version of patriarchy. Which is why the next step is Step 4, experiencing the illusory boon of success. This is where the heroine has achieved everything she set out to do, but it has come at a great sacrifice to her soul. Murdoch describes that because the heroine fears women's powerlessness, she feels that she has to be more
pause it
independent
here.
and more self-sufficient than
It's. I don't think the way that she's relating to this with her story quite works, because she was just saying that she was struggling, and that she was not really, like, that she was sort of stuck doing or not stuck, but that she was doing care work and not like she was busy being pregnant and raising children and working for the church. I don't really think that this is the thing that the heroine's journey is talking about here. the boon of success is like the achieving the sort of like counter image of, or the like the sort of pseudo feminist image of like masculine success. That's what the boon of success is.
Agreed. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah,
remember when this was written, right? And Maureen Murdoch's own sort of history, where she was in the as even was mentioned here, she was in the feminist movement of the 70s and 80s. And so I don't think it's really what she's talking about here, where it's the like second shift type thing. Is more that. I don't think, yeah.
No, I agree with you. Actually, Murdoch specified. So a long time ago, I actually did watch Maureen Murdoch talking about this. There's a really long video on YouTube that's basically just Maureen Murdoch sitting down and discussing this whole thing. And her example, it was precisely what we were talking about. Like Maureen Murdoch's own life example was, I think, like when she was reaching a decent amount of success in like her publishing career and things like this.
Yeah. It's reaching success by the masculine standard, sort of.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that's where the sort of awakening to the spiritual feelings comes from, is that actually she did achieve those things, and now she feels empty, and sort of like a very psychoanalytic sense.
Men in order to achieve anything at all. She will depend on no one. She drives herself relentlessly to the brink of exhaustion. She forgets how to say no, has to be all things to all people, and ignores her own needs to be cared for and loved. Her relationship to her inner masculine has become distorted and tyrannical. He never lets her rest. She feels oppressed, but doesn't understand the source of her victimization. As my friend Vanessa Loader described in her TED
Talk, I want to note
here, I got to the point in my career where
that this feeling of emptiness, like, is not unique to the woman reaching this point. It's also something that men experience when they reach this point in their lives.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
It's very much like one of the things that births psychoanalysis and this whole, and existentialism as well. This whole thing of like the middle class, like the boom of the middle class in the years of social democracies.
All the accoutrement of advanced capitalism.
Yes,
yeah.
But specifically of like middle class, like sort of post World War II boom. There's like a significant portion of people who are living like a quote unquote like middle class lifestyle, right? Of like having the things that they they're not wealthy, but they have the things that they want. They're comfortable, and they can do nice things. And so suddenly, there's a bunch of people with a lot of spare time and money who are thinking about, well, what the hell was all of this even for? What do I do now that I'm here? I think
to a large extent, I think the show Mad Men to a large extent is about all this.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's one of the core things of like psychoanalysis in general.
Yeah. When the object can do what he thought it could do. Mad Men is huge for this.
Like, you know what this reminds me of? Specifically the scene from Mad Men where Peggy is mad at Don because he used an idea that she had to get, like a really lucrative ad deal, and she didn't really get the full credit for it, and they're arguing back and forth, and then she's like, well, it'd be nice, if I got some credit or like got promotion or something like that. And then he like yells at her. He's like, that's what the money is for. And it's basically him like telling her that like all the shit that I went through, you have to go through as well. And the compensation for this, or the consolation for all this, is the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because it's the purest distillation of capital as the complete general equivalent. Anything you could ever want, it's like you have a bunch of train tracks of desires, and then money's like the turntable. It's like you turn you around to whatever track you want. So it should be have you ever had someone say like, I don't know what to get so and so as a gift, and someone's like, "Oh, just give them money."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that sort of a thing. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I love to give the Mad Men example. I think there's an explicit scene in Mad Men where Don's friend, I can't remember the guy's name, Roger maybe, the older guy. He just goes like, we have all this stuff.
Roger,
Like, why are we happy? Yeah, Roger's like, why can't we be happy? We have everything we want. Like, he kind of addresses this kind of explicitly in one of these scenes where he just kind of has his feet up or whatever. And he's just wondering, like, he's kind of musing about it. He's like, how is it the case that we just cannot seem to be happy? Our lives are enviable. We're Madison Avenue guys. We can have whatever women we want. We can go wherever we want. We can buy whatever we want, et cetera, et cetera. And somehow this thing keeps eluding us, which is it's true. And by the way, that's why I have a really big issue with people who are just like, they're just stupid. If you give me all the money, I'd be happy. I know where that comes from. I'm very without money at the moment, okay? Like, I'm very impoverished in a certain way. And there are moments where you think like, oh, these people, if I had at least like 25%, if I had 5% of what some of these people have. But that's the thing. It's like you got to have the experience to understand that it doesn't get you where you want it to. I do want to say one thing about what August was talking about though earlier about like, this is very mid-century. It's very mid-century in the sense that there really was a time where you could kind of like do all the things and be left wondering like, well, what do I do now? And part of that is also the result of the division of labor. This is what Smith was really scared about, actually. Smith was like, look, if you have a guy whose whole life is like the telos of his life is riveting parts on a Chrysler, then you have another guy whose whole thing is designing the seats for the Chrysler. Then you have a guy whose other thing is designing the tires for the Chrysler. You're going to get a bunch of people who are, one, remarkably idiotic, and two, are unable to like source out, establish for themselves any sort of value beyond accumulation towards this particular kind of limited, very finitudinal goal. And this is why you get the whole Marxist, like, we want a guy, we want to have a situation where you can, fish at noon and, and critique at dinner and do this whole thing, right? This idea of leaving the one dimensionality that labor entails for us. Because what happens when, for example, you can retire? Oftentimes, people who retire, they become aimless, they become desultory, they become unable
Trump voters.
They become Trump voters. And it's funny. There was a Ben Shapiro clip where he was trying to justify basically raising the age of retirement again on this basis. He was like, well, actually, people who are like 76, they actually don't want to stop working, because when they stop working, that's when you see spiked rates of depression and this whole thing. And the numbers are not necessarily bogus. The problem, though, is that you don't realize that the real issue here, Ben, which is that you've basically, the only way in which they can define themselves is through a very limited, laborious operation, because it's the only way in which we've told them that one can define oneself.
Yeah.
They have no values beyond accumulation.
We've made it a society centered around producing good workers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not only that, but we've put the activities of production necessarily within that realm of production as a commodity, right? Labor as a commodity.
Yeah. 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 So the only way in which so I see what you're saying, right? There's a sinister liaison that we're kind of pointing out here, which is that the only way in which you can define yourself as a subject is through precisely your engagement with market capitalism, with this particular mode of production. And that's sinister, right? That's sinister. We tend to think about, the fact that one's basic necessities have to be facilitated by the capital process, and that's already really cooked. But now it's like, now you're quote unquote spiritual fulfillment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, it gets to the point where, like, even in your quote unquote free time, when you're not working, big air quotes, not being productive, big air quotes, you're still basically recuperating yourself so that you can be more productive later.
Yeah, you know what? For people who are interested in that whole thing, I highly recommend the Society of the Spectacle. De Boer talks about this. He's like, within a society that's predicated on the capitalist mode of production, not working is simply the continuation of the labor process. Yeah, you're preparing for work. You're refreshing yourself to be able to alienate your labor power at a later date. Yeah.
I think Marx touches on
Which,
this
by
as
the way,
well, though not as in
Marx does touch on. Marx does touch on this. He touches on this when he gets to, I think, the purchase and sale of labor power. I think chapter 6 of Capital. And see, the big thing here is that it flips our entire notion of what an economy is for, because we tend to think, you know, if you go take an econ class, an econ 101 course, they're going to tell you that more or less an economy is about the efficient allocation of resources. And what this does is precisely, and so it makes production as the subordinate to consumption as its end. That's how we usually tend to think about things, right? Marx will even say that there was a time where this was true, where, for example, if you go to a bunch of like Inuits, when they go fish, they engage in that process as a means for their ability to consume the fish later. It's a very intuitive way of thinking.
Overfish.
We tend to think that. Yeah, and we tend to think that our contemporary economy more or less works in this fashion. The problem, though, is that the end, which is supposed to be the consumption, from a capitalist perspective, from the perspective of the capitalist that's going to buy and sell your labor power, that is in itself simply a means for the growth of, what Marx will call the valorization of value, what most people just tend to call profit. So the thing that's supposed to be the end of an economy becomes a means for the actual end, which is the reduplication of profit. That is, in a sense, actually infinite, which in itself has no licenses, no end at all, which is a strange situation. But yeah, so you flip the orders entirely, which is really what's at stake. I think so. But I'm veering off. We're veering. Could you get back to the video? Sorry.
To tie that back to what we're watching. To tie back to what we're watching. I mean, is not a kind of similar recycling process going on here with this heroin myth, perhaps?
Maybe so.
Richard, are you part of the KGB? Is that what's happening?
No.
Is it slow because the KGB is like intercepting the signal or something like this? Are you an agent? I don't know.
Soviet internet.
Yeah, your Russian's too good, Richard. I don't know. You know, I sent some. I told Richard something in Russian. I told Richard something in Russian. Richard was like, "Why are you being mean to me?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry."
No, I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" I don't know what that means.
I was trying to insult you, but it didn't have. See, that's a problem. Like when you try to insult people in a language you don't know. Damn. You know, I asked a Russian person. I was like, if you were to insult someone, like, how would you do it? And they're like,
too many nouns mushed together in that language.
German's worse.
True. That's also true. Yo, German will make a word. They'll make a word out of an entire phrase, dog. They'll make a word out of an entire sentence, which is insane. But that's why they have such ridiculous philosophies. Anyway, let's continue.
This will be fixed when I get my new laptop in July.
Financially very successful, on track to be a partner in my firm. Everything on paper looked great. And yet inside, I felt really lost and unfulfilled. And I couldn't understand why. I had climbed to the top of this ladder, and all I could think was, crap, wrong ladder.
When the heroine has that, oh no, I've climbed the wrong ladder moment, it leads to the next step. Step 5. The crisis. The book title is Strong Women Can Say No. At this point, the heroine realizes that she has given everything to the system, believing that if she worked hard enough and sacrificed enough and proved herself to the men at the top enough, she would be rewarded and she would be happy. But she's not happy. She's dependent on other people's opinions and approval. And when disaster strikes, she realizes that she has lost essential parts of herself along the journey. For me personally, I've experienced this part of the journey in bits and pieces. My big crisis of disillusionment with my patriarchal religion came in 2016, which I wrote about in an essay called Dear Mormon Man, Tell Me What You Would Do. But the soul-shattering crisis that Murdoch talks about happened to me this year, when within a matter of months, my family of origin went through multiple catastrophes that I couldn't save them from. This shattered my identity as the strong oldest child who had always been able to hold my family together. I was also blindsided by a disruption in my PhD program that made me question my belonging and identity as a scholar. A very close friend of mine became unspeakably cruel and made accusations that shook my belief that I was worthy of love and rattled my trust in friendship in general. I found out about horrible, misogynistic comments from multiple men that I had trusted. And I began experiencing terrible fatigue and depression that at first I understandably attributed to the circumstances in my life, but it turned out to be an autoimmune disease and a cancer scare. This was the wreckage of my ego that I mentioned in the introduction. I was destroyed. I was so destroyed that I decided to seek therapy. Several of my friends had mentioned clinical ketamine therapy, so I decided to give it a try. And here's the crazy part. During each treatment, as I went deep down under, that's how it felt to me, like going underground, I was shocked by what I found. What I found was mother. Step 6.
Pause.
The initiation and descent.
Yo, okay, sorry. Before I even broach that, what is up with zillennial to millennial white women in like special K? Why? Like, what is up with can someone tell me about this?
I was thinking,
The
like,
ketamine situation.
you're starting with ketamine?
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. I'm like, you started with ketamine? That's a wild choice.
Mm-hmm. I heard a
Yo,
couple
from
of my
Mormon
friends
to-
mention it.
I mean, do we know where she lives approximately? Like what state she lives in?
I mean, Boulder, Colorado, obviously. No, I'm joking.
I don't know. I know some LA people, LA therapists are kind of like that. If you're wealthy.
Yo, I feel like if we did ketamine, we could become like DG. I'll just like start sending you ridiculous scribbles, and you'll have to decode them.
I feel like there's like this whole constellation of like these almost superstitious investments in the idea of like cures and like in medicines that come from people who just have a certain kind of naivete about like how disease or how being unwell works.
You know what?
I'm
gonna be
turn to these things.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I'm gonna be a little more careful.
It's a little like Crystal Mom adjacent.
It is, and I've been thinking of like Dr. K and the Ayurveda stuff. But I will say, I think here's my take on this. I think this is a good take, more or less. What I think happens is that people observe a real gap between certain, let's say, very like anatomically based, positivistic approaches to bodily health and simple outcomes. So they find a situation where, where a lot of the regular kind of medical stuff is not able to make a dent in their disposition.
It's like through this like labyrinthine bureaucratic process. Yeah,
you don't have to tell me about it. Oh my god. I
that
forget
almost
how
leaves you worse off than when you began.
You know, people didn't know that for a long time. We had like lifetime term limits on health insurance. So I think they were called something like lifetime maximums. So basically there is a set. By the way, this was abolished during the Obama administration. But it used to be the case that if you were a health insurance company, you basically could get the assignee or whatever, the person receiving the insurance, to agree that you're only going to cover like a certain amount of coverage.
I'm gonna get
throughout their lifetime.
Cancer.
Yeah, basically. And if you surpass that, if you went over that, you could just basically
It's
stop
just
coverage.
out of your pocket. Yeah.
Has anyone written an
Yeah, yeah.
article about how gambling is like, or how like insurance is being replaced by gambling or something? Because that's got to be a thing.
What do you mean?
Well, this just seems like gambling, except through a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo. Like
Oh, yeah.
you're literally gambling on how many health problems you're gonna have. That's fucking insane.
Yeah. Well, I mean, of course there's an attempt to I think that's why you have so much risk analyses, right? I mean, why do we care so much about risk analysis in the first place? Because we're in a sense engaging in a certain kind of gamble, and so if you're someone who gambles and you think you're a smart gambler, you try to forecast as much as possible and take in every conceivable variable, which is why you have like this entire fiasco of pre-existing conditions and this whole conundrum.
Right. Yeah.
There are certain car insurance companies where like they'll pay you, you have to pay less, or I think it is they'll charge less the less you drive your car, for example. Stuff like that, crazy stuff like this.
I remember my car insurance, I got some sort of discount because they put a little sensor in my car that attempts to use to like judge how you drive, and you put it on for like a couple weeks or a month, and then they can give you a discount based upon that.
I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
This has actually changed over time since that got introduced. It kind of got introduced as like, a new way to entice customers, and supposedly it's good for everybody because it reduces risk, encourages good driving behavior or whatever. But actually, what it's been slowly turning into is
I accidentally disconnected Imran.
Oh my gosh.
Hold on. I'm sorry, Imran.
Whoa, did you just see this one? I mean, Richard's a KGB agent, dog.
No, I was just
fishy.
trying to lower your gain as per Sunday's advice.
My God, I don't know what just happened. Like, you just put me into the panic rooms. I found myself in the bed. It was cold in there. It was like 30 degrees colder.
Yeah.
You just
put me in the server's like meat packing district. I don't know.
But
yeah.
Anyway, as I was saying, and I'll try to circle it back, relate it back to what we're watching. But
yeah,
it's slowly turned into a pretense to increase the cost of your insurance almost unconditionally, because there's no way that it's gotten to the point where there's no way that you can satisfy the constraints of the sensor being a reasonable driver out in the world, dealing with potentially unexpected situations.
Traffic conditions,
It's like,
right, of course.
What if somebody brake checks you in front of you? Oh, now all of a sudden you have a violation on this sensor thing, and like, God help you if you need to like document it and prove to them that it wasn't your fault or whatever. It's like,
I was driving back to the airport recently, and I had to do one of the craziest stops I've ever had to do because there was a car crash a quarter mile in front of me, and I had a very short time to. I couldn't actually see that it had happened because there was 2 or 3 cars in front of me, but those cars stopped in time, but I had to stop really, really fast.
Okay, August Walker over here. What the hell?
And so then it just becomes like
if I had been going a little bit faster, or there had been a little bit less space, I would have had to do a full swerve.
Yeah. But to get back to it, it basically becomes an instrument to just extract more from you, and this kind of gets back to like this feeling of like you're on the hamster wheel, right? That she is talking about that capital induces.
Well,
I do want to say too.
The heroine's journey is not specifically about capital. It's about the masculine and the feminine mostly.
Yeah, we kind of injected cap. But I do want to say, to go back to the gender dynamic,
Yeah, because it doesn't make sense if it doesn't have capital in it.
it has to have capital in it, of course, you know. But I think also there is a documented history of women being basically maltreated by institutional medicine. This is extensive. Actually, for those for viewers who are interested, I do have some reading recommendations. I might drop that later somewhere in the GSL for those who are interested. That kind of just talk about the way in which, I mean, for one thing people bring up is the disparity in research, right?
Yes.
That the bodies of women have been under-researched in terms of, investigations for maladies and things like this. And you also, of course, have the fact that doctors oftentimes don't listen to women.
Yeah. Women are much more likely to have
they're perceived
chronic
as
illness.
overplaying their pain and discomfort and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
I was
I have
talking
a
about
close personal friend
Mhm.
who went to so many doctors because she was having stroke-like symptoms, and she kept getting people who would not believe her. And it turns out that she had intense nerve issues.
Mhm.
Like a side of
Yeah,
her face.
there are many
like
women
drooping.
who have died because of this neglect. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Richard. Sorry.
Oh yeah. I was just gonna say that I was talking about exactly this, the fact that women get misdiagnosed and undiagnosed like systematically less often. We have literature on how this happens, but overall there isn't really a consensus as to why this occurs, I guess, other than patriarchy as a whole.
Right.
Yeah, somebody I was talking to wrote
Yeah,
an essay
because these
about this most
studies
recently.
Yeah, because these studies don't measure ideology.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult thing to measure because it doesn't necessarily matter how someone self-identifies if the way that they bodily engage with the world is like, oh, this person is saying this thing. It's going to hit a different way if you have inbuilt conceptions, which aren't necessarily like the person's fault per se, but there's like the way that people have been trained, even by the medical profession itself, whether it's through textbooks or stories, etc., film, TV, just the way that
The
people
way
are
our
expected.
subjectivity is built. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just expected. A new one is like people who have any illness that's like popular online, quote unquote, right? Have
Gets
trouble getting
ridiculed.
diagnosed
Yeah.
because the doctors just sort of assume that everyone's faking it now.
Mm-hmm. So, like people say, people are becoming transgender by being online or whatever.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the same friend I was mentioning earlier, the reason that she has nerve issues is because she has, she works in medicine and she has not been able to get diagnosed for I forget what it's actually called, but it's the thing where your like fascia and muscles don't properly hold your joints in place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so it her nerves basically get fall out of place because of this issue. But she went to a doctor and they said they can't diagnose her until she has a like. I mean,
like
I know
a
she's
extremely painful or life-threatening episode.
yeah, you basically have to be like dying from it to actually even get it
Jesus
diagnosed.
fucking Christ!
Like she can pop her shoulder out just like there with the doctor. She's had discs slip, all sorts of stuff, and that's not enough. It's insane.
Jesus.
Yeah, this is a problem not just with women, but with like those types of conditions in general too. They're so poorly studied, and doctors just don't know what to look for.
There's such an obsession with like meeting a technical criteria at like a point of dysfunctional either mental or physical crisis that doesn't seem to be interested in like preempting anything. It's like so reactive.
I think this is also
Yeah, I mean,
so much more of an issue in America than it is in countries with socialized medicine.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely exacerbates it like 10,000-fold. Yeah. Anyway, we should probably get back.
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Instead of
Very, very off
complaining about
topic.
our milieu.
Mhm.
Important discussion though.
Amy was saying that she lost everything, and when she was on ketamine, she found Mother.
Whatever that means.
Right.
I guess we'll find out. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we will.
Sorry, I don't mean to be trite about it. I mean, I'm sure it was very important for her.
The book. So, how was she descending to meet the goddess? She says it happens a lot in dreams. She's a Jungian psychologist, after all. She also says, the swamp, the woods, they are my mother. As a child, I felt connected to the trees, to the mud, to the grasses and leaves. I never felt alone. I take back that connection. It runs deep. And she illustrates important principles through global myths of goddesses such as Demeter
pause
and
real quick.
Inanna, which reveal truth.
I think this is actually really interesting. Again, we're getting back to the woman as body thing.
Yep.
Right.
Where there's this
Nature.
it's nature
Yeah.
culture where nature is the feminine again,
Mhm.
which is
Yeah.
very, especially for someone who's like us,
Yeah.
like we mentioned, supposedly like a reader of Butler. It's a very odd way to self-conceptualize or to conceptualize as
she's
someone trying to break
reconnecting
down
with
patriarchy.
Yeah, she's having an experience that connects in an unconscious way to the ideological structure of her life, right? Like all this stuff was happening. I mean, she literally told us like all this stuff was basically happening to her as a little girl, and now she's having some kind of phenomenological experience through this drug that she's taking that makes it more explicit for her, right? Or at least that's how it appears to me.
Mhm.
Yeah,
they
I
also,
mean,
okay, I
go ahead.
agree. This point that it's coming back to the body is interesting. I agree, and of course, we pointed out that this has always been the kind of ghettoization of the feminine into pure immanence, right? This is what de Beauvoir talks about. But interestingly enough, the French philosopher, who some of you might be familiar with, I think someone in the chat actually has him as their profile picture. Jean Baudrillard, in Seduction, he makes a wonderful point about this, and this is actually a critique he has of Irigaray, Luce Irigaray, the French feminist psychoanalyst, or psychoanalytically informed feminist. Irigaray has a passage where she's kind of talking about a woman's pleasure, and she talks about things like clitoral activity and messing with the vulva and this whole thing, right? And so Baudrillard responds to this, and he's like, parole de femme, which in French just kind of means something like women's speech. Like is this the what is, because this is a whole thing in French feminist discourse. It's like unlocking the parole de femme, unlocking the kind of the woman's talk, bringing that to the fore instead of concealing it. And Baudrillard is like, is this really what we mean by the parole de femme? Because he says, it's always an anatomical speech, right? Always that of the body. He says, what is specific to women lies in the diffraction of the erogenous zones and a decentered eroticism, the diffuse polyvalence of sexual pleasure, and the transfiguration of the entire body. And so He's like,
That's
it's always a
right.
question of the body. It's
Right.
always strange. Like, how are we unable to get past this? Where even within the most feminist discourse you can find, it's always rerouting back into woman as immanent against the transcendence. There's a way in which we can talk about immanence, but it has to be in a way that gets past the anatomical, and the way in which it stands on one side of a dualism. I think so.
Yeah, precisely.
But
especially just interpreting this whole thing as like when she's talking about the earth as the feminine, it very strange.
Yeah.
To do that.
It's a little rough.
Down patriarchy.
I was Swamp Thing all along.
Mm-hmm. Well, guys, I have to run to the bathroom. Do you guys want to keep talking?
Sure.
We can keep yapping for sure. I don't think that's anything we have a problem with. It's your time to shine, Imran, and here you go. You mute yourself.
Someone in chat said, the surveillance stuff stacks. When I was applying for jobs, I saw a startup that wanted to surveil how consistently you take medication to offer discounts on health insurance.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that sounds pretty.
Yeah,
disturbing.
the surveillance is a tool to reinforce your productivity. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we saw this recently with AI that tracks tasks.
Yeah.
As a employee tasks completed.
Mm-hmm.
There was some discourse about this.
Yeah. I think you're talking about the coffee shop that was tracking how many drinks per hour, like this barista
that's the
making
one.
or something like that. Yeah. I mean, this is everywhere. I mean, this it used to be that it was more the sort of the old Foucauldian panoptic, where it's kind of like this informal social reinforcement that's going on, where like you have the cop inside of you and whatnot. But now we've reached a technological point where we kind of don't even need the cop inside of us anymore, which is kind of scary. We literally can just have a machine do. We can outsource that policing to a machine.
Well, that's the thing. It almost doesn't matter how effective it is if you can do the panopticon thing with it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's going to come back to the sort of same thing.
Well, I think what this changes is that the ways in which you can sort of rebel against this or sort of get a break from it is kind of constrained in ways that it wasn't before. Because it used to be I think I'm even old enough to actually have experienced this transition, being at work, where back when I was say fresh out of high school and just getting my first job, there was kind of a sense that as long as the work that was needed to be that you were assigned that needed to be done was done by the end of the day. In my case, I was stocking at a retail store in the mornings, really early in the morning, 2 a.m. starting at 2 a.m. unloading a truck, stocking the store, hopefully before it opens. And it's even if we went over the time into the day of the store opening at 7 or 8 in the morning, there was still a sense that okay, well, the work for the day got done, and as long as it got done that day, and you could go home and nobody was threatening your job or anything. Whereas now it's literally constant. Not only do you need to get the day's work done, but you need to be intensely busy all the time. You need to make a show of your work intensity at work. It needs to be visible, and even if you're not caught explicitly being lazy or whatever, if you're not shown to be busy all the time, there's like this constant like suspicion of whether you're really doing your job or not.
I see.
And there's an intensity to that I think is like ramped up considerably, especially like since like my parents were working. I don't think that they have any concept of like, because they're like, oh well, everything will work out. Like you get this job and you work hard and people will appreciate you and you'll get ahead or whatever. And I'm like, no. It's like it is not that simple anymore.
Yo, how do I sound? Can I get a quick sound check on this?
Yeah.
Ooh, it's a little rough.
Okay, hold on.
You're you sound a little fuzzy. Yeah.
Okay, what about? Is it better now?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, that's much
Okay.
better.
Yeah. It's a little,
Yeah. Okay, that's
can you
interesting.
turn the
Sorry,
gain
continue.
down? Can you turn the gain down on Discord?
No, I
It's kind
can't.
of
I'm
blurry.
gonna turn off automatic gain control. I'll see what that does.
What is your actual because you can turn your microphone volume down in voice settings.
Yeah. Hold on. Okay, I turned it down a little bit. It's pretty low right now. How is it?
Still loud. It's manageable, but loud. I'll turn you down on my end as well. I have you up a bit. Try it again.
Sorry, say that again.
Okay, sounds much better to me. I turned you down on my end a bit as well. I had you up quite a bit, so sounds much better. Does that sound okay to does he sound
Yeah,
good?
I have you turned down to 65%.
Okay.
You know what? Can you just because to be honest with you, my it's also making y'all
I've returned.
like lower for me, and that doesn't seem right. I don't know why that would be happening.
Welcome back. We were just yapping about the Panopticon and the lovely world we live in.
Ah, that's fun.
Richard, I'm gonna need you to okay, we're gonna do this real quick. I actually have to turn my mic volume back up because it like turns everyone down for some reason.
Uh-huh.
So if y'all can just like, I'm gonna turn it back up and y'all can just like all turn me super low, and then that'll probably be better for the stream as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, give me a second.
But to cap off what we were talking about,
Technical difficulties.
The thing with
Give me
the
one moment here.
Panopticon originally was that you couldn't possibly have the guards looking everywhere all at once at the same time, right? That was just impossible. But now we've reached a technological point where we can outsource that to technology, and such that the guards are literally always constantly watching, and not only watching, but like measuring and like doing metrics and shit. A la like Palantir and stuff like that, and Flock.
Oh god, Flock, don't remind me.
Okay,
so it's actually even more dystopian than what Foucault was describing.
Yeah, Richard. So I was watching stream. It might be good to turn me down a little bit from where I am right now on the stream volume.
I turned you down.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is a good point, Sure Shot. Sorry, so I don't think I can adjust my gain. I can turn off automatic gain control, but I don't know if I want to. I don't know if that's.
If Richard has
that's
turned you down on the input thing, I think it'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think the one consolation in this situation, though, and I mean it's a very small one, but like, when it comes to like rebelling, it's not so much. You can kind of, it gives you an avenue to externalize, like the guard or the cop inside of you into the technological object, the camera, basically. And you can smash the camera. Like, you can physically vandalize or smash the camera, and you can sort of rebel in that sort of in that way. But I do wonder a little bit, like, when people complain about like Flock or whatever, to what extent are they ignoring the surveillance that is within themselves, I guess. But that's a whole other can of worms, whole other digression. We should probably
I think
get
that's an
back to the
interesting
video.
topic for another time.
Yeah.
We should come back to that.
Do you guys remember what goddess this is?
That is that Demeter?
No, Demeter was
No,
the
no,
previous
no,
one.
no. Yeah, that was the previous one. This one
Truths
is
to her
a.
about
I
her
want to say
own
a Sumerian.
All I
maybe?
can say is read
Yeah.
the book. These myths have lasted for thousands of years
I see
because they
owls
do
next to her,
reveal
so maybe some
scarily
sort of-
relevant things about
Is
our
wisdom still owls for
Sometimes.
wherever that?
I want to. Yeah, this is like an early. That was like an early Mesopotamian thing. I think there was like a Minervan kind of goddess. That
I
was
wonder
like associated with like floods and stuff.
Uh-huh.
I wonder if Murdoch has a thing about which goddesses she's using.
Yeah. Like maybe there's a sort of monomyth of goddesses, like certain
I mean, I
figures
assume
that
for-
appear in folklore.
Yeah, fertility, the earth, etc. are
Yeah.
probably.
The moon.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you know, actually, I know a goddess too. I'm just waiting for her to flood my DMs. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna mute.
Ban this man.
Yeah,
It's
time
over.
him out.
I'm gonna send him to the back rooms.
Never to return. We need a soundboard for this shit.
True.
That's true.
What a cool word.
Whenever Imran makes a stinker, we can have that sound that goes wah 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 wah.
That's very powerful. The problem is that
lives.
it's like we have like nuclear launch codes, and then it just needs like Richard to fucking implement. We need like a check and balance. That's what we need in here.
Okay.
Urgent yearning to reconnect with the feminine. Murdoch writes, when a woman has made the descent and severed her identity as a spiritual daughter of the patriarchy, there is an urgent yearning to reconnect with the feminine, whether that be the goddess, the mother, or her little girl within. There's a desire to develop those parts of herself that have gone underground while on the heroic quest. Her body, her emotions, her spirit, her creative wisdom. She then talks about the heroine healing her relationship with her body and her sexuality, being playful and creative, being connected to the earth like she was when she was a child. I was amazed to read this part because I've been instinctively doing just that. Recently, I took an art class, and while I was drawing, I noticed that my face hurt and discovered that it was because I was smiling so hard.
Oh, a point that I wanted to make earlier is, what if the girl/woman is in an urban, like, alienated society where there's no opportunity to reconnect with nature?
When they come back to the earth, so to speak, yeah, and to be like a mother. That like what if they haven't had children?
Well, it's a little odd
It's
too,
like-
because the thing that she was talking about was that she was already deeply, like, she was talking about the sort of care work that she was already
But
sort
she
of
was alienated
struggling
from it
about
at the
that.
time.
Right.
Yeah.
But I guess it's interesting that it seems like there are ways that it doesn't quite line up with Murdoch's way of talking
Yeah.
about it.
Like, she's
filling in a lot of the blanks for her own life.
Mhm.
Well,
she
we're
started
talking
off
about.
identifying as a
what
mother,
we're
she
talking about
went
here
to-
is like her psychic, orientation towards things versus the way that Murdoch is staging all this as like a kind of process, right? Where it's like you can take it very literally, and like the almost sort of like geographic positionality of somebody in their relation to things, but she's dealing with something that's more reflective of her internal life or her psychic life, right?
I mean, the feminine journey or the heroine's journey thing is about a psychological transformation.
It's
and sort of
allegorical. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's not just allegorical, it's like psychological specifically. It's like a psychological allegory.
Well, yeah, that's well. What I was about to say is that Jung is like all allegory.
Yeah.
Like, that's his entire thing. Yeah.
The point that I was trying to make is sort of
Sorry to
related to
interrupt.
what de Beauvoir talks about in the summary that she makes of the myths that the 5 authors have of women.
Mm.
She talks about, she makes this point very briefly that when a woman doesn't fit into the myth that somebody has of what a woman is and supposed to be, then people have an instinct to say that the woman is unfeminine rather than to reconsider whether the myth applies. And
Ooh,
I think
okay. I like
something
that.
happens here actually with, if you really believe in the heron's journey, that if a woman doesn't relate to this myth, then it's because she like just hasn't happened to her yet, or she's not feminine enough.
Right.
Yeah, you haven't been properly raised.
Well,
Big air
yeah,
quotes.
I think or you're early on in the journey, right? Is that
Yeah.
Mhm.
so you get to, if you're quote unquote farther along, you get to posit yourself as sort of having undergone the same things that someone else has.
Well, yeah, I
believe.
mean, like, that's kind of the whole critical problem with the whole framework of this myth is that, like, you can never really get away as a woman um, from being a woman in these terms, right?
Mhm.
It's like you're always meant to return back to this. There's no actual like critical break with womanhood
Mhm.
or with patriarchy for that matter.
Yeah.
I mean, it even goes back to like when she was talking about earlier about like her early, big air quotes rebellions or whatever. Like, oh, I didn't wear pink and I
And
didn't
then
wear
last year, I
makeup.
started dance classes that.
And it's like it almost feels not to like make fun of her or anything. I'm sure that's like within the purview of like what really mattered to her or whatever. But it just feels so. The rebellion in and of itself feels like it's captured.
Yeah. Well, I think
You know what I'm
that
saying?
feeling of it being captured is precisely because on either side of it, whether you flee towards like a certain kind of image of masculinity, or try to liberate a certain kind of femininity that you feel is being repressed, either way, we're just engaging in more and more revitalizations of the fundamental dualism. I think this is
Mhm.
going to be the road we keep
Exactly.
running into. Yeah,
Right.
that at each point, it's like you're just reinvigorating some notion of a fundamental difference in which something must be revitalized on one side of the line. Um, and so actually, there's a really good speculative question, and for people who are still listening in the audience, this might be something to grapple with once we get out of here, which is what does a feminist project look like that wants to create something new? Like, what does it mean to be a woman that isn't simply trying to resuscitate or furnish one side of this, historical split? Um, what does that look like for you? What do you think it looks like for others? I don't know. Something to meditate on. But I want to leave y'all with that. Well, we're not going anywhere right now, but maybe for later on, And actually, if you have any interesting ideas on this, let us know in the GSL. Remember, this channel is not detached. Like everything that we're talking about is usually talked about as well in the GSL, and so there's a continuity there. If you find any of this interesting, if you have things to say of a more extensive manner that you want to write out without being locked by the character cap in the comment section, go to the GSL, put it in theory and philosophy, or just put it in Gen Chat, or just come and say that I have too much gain on my mic or something. Whatever it is, head to the Discord. Okay. With that said,
Sand says, to be honest, I think this comes down to the fundamental problem with the issue. You need a feminist critique of the heroine's journey, or sorry, of the hero's journey, not its quote unquote feminist parallel. Or I
Yeah,
added the quote unquote.
This TBH.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, I think approaching any of these from a Jungian system is fundamentally going to come back to like the essential masculine and feminine, and it's not going to really reach like unraveling any of these terms meaningfully.
Yeah, well, Jung is a completionist. In fact, one might even argue that there's a strange complicity between Jungian thinking and the first and second wave feministic situations that we had. So Ambrose apparently has an issue with this notion of waves, but I'm going to adopt it here for now. Insofar as these terms
Oh yeah,
are
yeah.
legible.
Like especially if you're talking like academically, it gets messy. There are large cultural pushes that we've retroactively identified certain commonalities of. That's about as much as you can say. Yeah.
Yeah.
With
I mean,
Ambrose.
but it comes back to the anima and the animus thing, where for Jung the stake is always in some kind of integration.
Yeah.
Which is and so you see a lot of that with let's say earlier quote unquote waves of feminist thinking, where it's like
Does this make him
the
a
problem is
Fichtean?
that maybe, you know what it makes him? It makes him platonic. It makes him platonic. This is some symposium shit right here. You gotta reintegrate with your other half or whatever.
Okay.
I'm being annoying about it, but
yeah. I'm trying to think because I don't think that would fit with other things of Plato, but I'm not as familiar with symposium.
well, that's where you get the notion of the other half. Like that's the other half theory.
Oh yeah. That's is that where the other half in terms of like masculinity, femininity? That's what you're talking about?
Oh yeah. Well, I'm just speaking generally. This notion of like
Yeah.
you are bifurcated, and you have to
For
find the
people who
thing
are
that's been
not
split up.
familiar, there's sort of an ancient Greek, almost like a just so story of like men and women being at some point being one creature that was both man and woman all amalgamated into one body with 4 hands and 4 legs and 2 heads. And then at some point, I forget why, I think Zeus or someone else splits them apart into individuals. And it's from that they get this notion of like the romantic is the proper restoration of the man and the woman who were divided.
Yeah. No, I think that's a decent retelling. And so and so that kicks off a lineage, I think, of integration or reintegration of the assimilation of some lost part of oneself. Jung will also pull this in certain situations of infatuation. So, for example, a very Jungian question to ask yourself: if you find yourself in a deep kind of, let's say, one-sided attraction to somebody, do you really want that person, or do you feel like they have something that you would like to have for yourself? And if it's the latter, then your work is then trying to integrate that within your own life, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it is this kind of completionist thing, yeah. And so this has a complicity, I think. It has a complicity in the sense of the feminine has to integrate the masculine, and then we'll finally have like a whole personage. There's a way in which you can do this that's not so objectionable. For example, the reintegration of the subject on the other side of the subject-object division is something that I can understand people wanting to build up a way of thinking around. However, of course, the more radical negation is that of the entire ensemble of terms and their internal economy. So it's not simply that I want to jump over, but I want to destroy the kind of topos that we have here, the kind of ground that we have here, the economy of terms.
I just wanted to point out Jimbo's little quip here. I wear a pink shirt from time to time. I don't really feel like it's breaking through the gender barriers, though. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Funnily enough, pink used to be a masculine color. It's funny how those things change style, right?
I remember we had a funny conversation on people who they get their nails painted, but they make sure to paint it black if they're men.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing too gay, right? It's
Yeah.
always the thing.
Yeah.
Sand says not just pink. Well, yeah, purple was the royal color for monarchs.
I can respect a purple. If you pull out like a cold shade of purple, that's fire.
Oh
That's fire.
no.
Okay,
Guys, we're all
what's going on?
moderating, but I think we have to moderate the Discord for a second.
Oh, 1 sec. What is going on?
Check general.
Are they spamming kitten pics?
No.
Oh, it's getting active.
Okay, let's just turn on
Okay,
10
anyway,
hours.
you
Let's
know
just
what?
turn on
Here,
10
here,
hours slow mode and be done with it.
no, we're not doing that.
Do it
I'll
later.
take. Listen,
Actually,
gang, I'll take care of it. Let's continue the stream. I'll be working on that. Don't worry
Okay.
about it.
Okay, yeah,
Thank
make
you.
sure
Okay.
that it's not like too aggressive or anything. It doesn't seem to be at
Yeah,
the
yeah.
moment, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, I'm scrolling up and I
Okay.
see I see a message that has a lot of all caps, but it doesn't seem to be negative. So it seems to be
By the
maybe
way,
okay.
to the viewers out there, if you're interested in blood sports, we do that too. No, I'm joking. Okay, no, continue the stream. I'll figure it out. Figure it out.
Yeah, thank you. I'm wrong.
Make my heart explode with a joy so big it sometimes makes me cry. Reclaiming these activities that I loved as a kid has been, first of all, a huge privilege, and also a world-rocking source of joy for me. But the journey is not over, and the next step is a doozy. Step 8. Healing the mother-daughter split. Oof. This is a hard one for a lot of heroines, especially if the daughter's separation from the feminine included a rift with her actual mother. Building bridges is hard work, and sometimes the heroine finds that her mother has not done any introspection and doesn't really have the tools for reconciliation. Murdoch herself had a terribly cold and abusive mother, and she writes that women in this situation have a really difficult time, but can heal by remothering themselves and by turning to another loved and trusted woman, like a grandmother or always Mother Earth. A few minutes ago, I said that in my ketamine therapy, I had a really powerful experience. So I'll share that with you now. I was in a session that I had started with the intention that I would be able to find my true self beyond what anyone else thought of me. I went into the session and it felt like I was dead, like deep, deep, deep in the dark earth. But then as I came out of it, I took off my eye mask and I sat in the room by myself. And I was overwhelmed, like absolutely overcome with love for my mother and with her love for me, especially when I was a baby. Any pain between us was washed away. And I sat there bawling, just repeating, I love you, Mom. I see you, Mom. I know who you are. And then in absolute wonder, I said the words, I'm my mother's daughter. I was permeated with peace and enoughness. And I felt the presence of my grandma, that grandma who was so hurt and sad, who withdrew from her life. I was overwhelmed with love for her, with her love for me. And I reclaimed her, saying, I love you, Grandma. I see you. And on I went back through my maternal line of ancestors, back to my polygamous Mormon wife predecessors who have caused me pain and shame. I loved them all. I felt their
I don't know about you guys, but I went through something similar when I read The Will to Change. I thought there about the ways that my mother hurt me in her attempt to like prevent the world from hurting me, and how I hated her for being insufficient to like prevent the world from hurting me. Um had a that sort of like healing experience after reading yeah, the will to change, not ketamine. um, I'm curious if
I
you
think
have something similar.
Everything Everywhere All at Once was
mean,
one of the ones for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like there's a point of realization that I guess is like kind of a cliche at this point that the child starts to see their parents, how they became who they were, and why they.
Not even that, because it's not like I
Well-
learned about her past that much more. I mean, I learned about her childhood when I was a child, when I was interested in her her being like me. It was rather that I understood the world better and like who my mom had to
The
be
kind of
because of
forces
the
that could
world.
drive someone to behave that way.
Mm-hmm.
That makes
Well, the
sense.
key thing being you started to understand why your parent was being the way that they are, right?
Yeah.
I do think
what?
it's striking me as odd though that she's so focused, like she's harping on about her whole maternal line. I I find this odd. Like it's again going back to this whole like dichotomous thinking. Like what about the
disingenuous.
men in her history? Like is
She's talking about the women that she loves because she's talking about reconnecting to her femininity in a
right, but
more
it's still
complete way.
taken for granted that we're talking about like the separation of the masculine and the feminine into these
Yeah.
archetypes.
Can't
Well,
she
hold on.
reconnect?
Hold on.
Isn't it
I
possible to
want to
reconnect
strongman this.
with
I want to steelman this a little bit, though.
Mhm.
Well, I want to steelman this because it's like, of course, we are going to be dichotomous in terms of the experiences that people are submitted to. So I see what you're saying, and I agree with you to a certain extent, but I also do think that insofar as we're looking at a line of people being delineated upon certain features and being treated very abhorrently based upon that delineation, I completely understand why she would want to go back and kind of say, like, I get it now. Like, I see. I want to
And
reclaim you
the next
on
step
this.
on the heroine's journey is the healing with the masculine. So I guess we'll see what she says about that.
That's going to be interesting because this is something I wanted to say after everyone was finished. And Sure Shot and I are, I mean, I don't want to be rude about this, but Sure Shot, I feel like you're also cishet. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
because I don't know if I'm the only cishet person here. Okay.
Yeah.
So as being like, so being a cishet guy, right? I don't think it's not really, and being like quote unquote enlightened about certain things in terms of like gender dynamics and this whole thing. I have a hard time with the idea of like relating to or like reclaiming the men in my life. Like that's not really a thing. And in fact, I don't think it's ever been floated to me as a thing that I even should be doing by anybody, frankly.
Yeah.
And except for like men's rights activists or something like this.
Yeah.
Except for like
Crazy
weird
people.
conservatives.
I mean, I would say I feel the same way about like the men and women in my family. I see parts of things in me, but I feel like a pretty much like very much my own person, and also that I wouldn't necessarily I can I at least hope I can understand them, but I wouldn't want to necessarily be any more of them or like see myself like as the like I don't
The
necessarily buy into the idea
torchbearer or
of, like
reproduction of
yeah, this idea of like carrying on the family line.
Yeah, this is reminding me of two things. One is remember when Brooks was talking about Attack on Titan? He was kind of like talking about like the genealogy of trauma that is portrayed by in a sort of like a very like metaphysical way by the story. Or I guess by like the structure of like the mythology of that world. Does anybody remember that? I don't know. Does anyone remember that?
I don't know.
No.
I was just thinking about my own.
Okay.
I
guess we'll have to.
You go pretty quickly to the south, so just considering that one for a moment there.
There was an article have you Sure shot. Are you read the article? It blew up in the New York Times, I think late last year. It was called "The Trouble with Wanting Men," and it was like the usual kind of like, dating is wretched and
fatalist
men are
stuff.
kind of the problem. Yeah, it was pretty hetero fatalist, and actually, it got a lot of hate from both women and men. Weirdly enough, I remember posting that article in a server of mine that was mostly populated by women, and they fucking couldn't stand it. The author just has a very kind of like high-minded, supercilious way of going about things. But within the article, she writes, so I'm paraphrasing, but it's something along the lines of, you know, of course, if men ought to feel, or men are right to feel embarrassed by their masculinity, and it's up to every man to subvert the masculine stereotype in any way in which they feel is authentic themselves. Um, and I thought she kind of said the quiet part, and people would give her hate for this, but she kind of said the quiet part out loud, right? Where it's like, as a guy, you don't really want to be. You know how we have this whole thing
you
about
don't
how
really
like,
have anything to return to. You don't have a
you don't
reference
really have
point.
anything to return to, right?
Yeah.
You actually need to not be like other men. It's like the complete opposite of the whole like, oh, I'm not like other women. It's like
The
it's like no,
sisterhood and all that shit. Yeah.
right. The joy is in being like other women. Whereas for men, it's like if you are like other men, you're like actually a piece of shit, probably. And so you got to like find a way to produce this like great departure. I remember having this
what
fucking
Earth do you return to as a man?
yeah. There's no
Mhm.
Gaia left. I remember having this whole fucking crisis. I was talking to a friend of mine, my best friend actually, who's a woman, and I was talking to her about this, and I was like, uh, you know, I really have a like because I'm someone who, for example, in the way that I act and dress and the things I talk about, I might seem this is not to like humble brag or whatever. I might seem very different to a lot of like common men that you might come across. But I was telling her like I don't like that. I don't like the perception that I'm like this massive super separate, right? Like completely separate from what men are, because I am a man in very many ways. Like I look at the mass of men and see parts of myself within the series of men that exist. And so even if you do it well, you have this sense not of betrayal, but of like you're being misapprehended. Like like I'm not this completely
Yeah.
alien being to men who somehow happens to still be a man.
Well, yeah, this is like
yeah.
this is like the obverse of the whole male privilege thing, right? We're weird obverse to it because on the one hand, like, yeah, people will, casually say, "Oh, well, you're a man, you have it easy, your balls itch sometimes," and that's basically like the remit of your problems as a man, right? And just scratch your balls or whatever, you'll be fine. But it's like,
Clean your balls.
on the other hand, it's like, okay, where do I go? What do I do when it comes to finding oneself? Because your inheritance is basically a long line of like either just like mediocre kind of shitty people to just downright like abuse and trauma. And
Right.
so it's like yeah, I've like inherited this privilege or this position or whatever, but it's like what do I have to look back on? What do I have to look on for like inspiration?
Yeah.
And I mean, fundamentally, I still just take issue with the framing of it necessarily needing to be about like the masculine or the feminine. Like if you the constant need to always be framing it in the sort of the masculine feminine.
That's the original trauma. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
The separation from the rest of the world.
The original alienation, the origin of all alienations.
It's so cool that you say that, because one of the things I had to like that was like a psychological bugbear. We're getting a lot of confessions. We're getting confessions here, chat. Oh my god.
Spicy.
One of the big psychological bugbears I had, and maybe still have to a certain extent, was have you ever like come across like a piece of media that you resonate with, and all the comments are something like, "This is for blank gender that isn't yours." or maybe
Wait,
it's like a
elaborate on
racial thing.
this. What are we talking
So
about?
for example, if you like, for example, like a song, we'll do it from my perspective.
I
Like a
see. I
safe
see what you
idea.
mean. Okay, I see where you're going.
Yeah. So if I like Pink Pony Club or whatever, and someone's like, and say for example, I resonate with like Pink Pony Club for some reason, and all the comments are gonna be like, oh yeah, this one's for the girls and the gays, and that kind of a thing. And I'm like, well, I'm not any of these. There are moments where you wanna. Sometimes you even feel like you're stepping in territory you shouldn't. In other words, you're having empathy that you shouldn't have, which is a crazy feeling, by the way. Where it's like, well, this isn't for me, so which is fine, right? But at the same time, does that? Can I still connect with this? Is this like a problem? Should I? What does that mean? And this is something I had to deal with for some time, where it's like I would have like a thing I connect with, but I wasn't, because I was in the target audience and people were very loud about that. I was like, is
I
it
think
possible?
this discussion happens constantly with the idea of like black art, right?
Yeah.
This idea that it's like people are very interested in whether or not it's like for white people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because the main market is always white. Just because there
Or
are more
often
white
white.
people.
Not only that, but economics, money.
Yeah. But it's because once black art becomes mainstream, then the audience becomes the majority, and the majority is white.
Yes, precisely.
Yeah, that's what I also have a rhyme to share.
No, go ahead.
Formula One, I'm gonna keep on driving up in West Monaco.
All right. Formal apology to everyone who just had to listen to that. It's not a regular occurrence on this channel. You won't.
I thought we were
to-
going to get like some like thoughtful poem or something.
Why would you think
I thought I was
that?
gonna get like Byron. You know what I mean? I thought I was about to get some fire. I thought I was gonna get like a couplet from some dead poet, from like some Sappho spill. I don't know. No, thank you,
Or
Richard.
a haiku or something.
Imagine.
Haikus
liked
don't
it.
rhyme. Thank you.
Yeah.
thank you.
Also, I feel like people need to stop with their haiku obsession. It's becoming a little bit much.
They're very
But
easy.
anyway,
English haiku
Also,
are mid.
I'm curious. What does
Okay.
sand mean? What happened to GSL?
oh, maybe. Hold on. I have to go back and do some
he
more.
probably meant in Gen Chat. Why Imran was.
Yeah, I got caught up in the discourse. Excuse me, folks. Excuse me. I gotta
But
go
it seems to be chill.
I gotta go be a police officer. It's chilling out. People are just talking because someone in there is doing like stuff on AI. Like they're doing a project on AI. Yeah, and people are kind of like snarling about it. Anyway,
do we love AI or hate AI in the GSL? I forget.
I don't know. I think we are AI. I think we are AI finally. I mean, we employ AI. We implement some kind of machinic process.
No, I'm just joking
we
in
employ
terms
bots.
of like setting it up on the binary. That
we have bots on the payroll. Yeah. By the way, if you say one errant thing in the GSL, we have a Terminator bot that's coming to get you. We're gonna harvest your limbs, and we're gonna
we have a gay science bot that will appropriate your body
that will
for
dissect
purposes
you.
Gay
Stem
science.
cell research. Yeah. Have you ever seen that Bush address where he got like really scared because of like certain advancements in cloning? He had a whole address about how human cloning is against like the Bible.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, he was like afraid that we'd have spare parts humans. Anyway, sorry, that's a digression.
There was a book about that. What is that one called?
So.
Scorpion something. It was pretty solid.
Okay.
The idea that human cloning is forbidden in the Bible is really funny.
I know. We shall not have simulacra in this house. By the way, we should have a sci-fi stream at some point. Okay, I do want to get back to the point though, which is that so there are ways in which the way we guard identities and experiences that are lived by those with certain identities, I think can make it scary for people to empathize. And And that's something to think about, definitely. The question of how we facilitate and foster cross-identified forms of empathy, instead of just making it so that only certain bodies can have certain, let's say, relations. Maybe put it in those kind of vague terms.
Yeah, that there's a proper placement and an improper placement.
Okay. Do you guys want to continue or stop? We've been going for about 2.5 hours.
I'm gonna keep
You
going.
You know what? Let's
The video is close to over. We should probably finish it.
Yeah, let's finish out this.
I want to hear how she does the integration with the masculine.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Is that going to happen? Oh, yes. That's
Yeah.
next. Okay. Yeah, I remember there's both reconciliation with the feminine and the masculine in the hero's journey as well.
Yeah.
Intentions and their struggles, and I wept as I said, I see you. I'm my mother's daughter. I wanted to find my true self, and I had no idea that healing the mother-daughter split was the key. There are still 2 more steps. Step 9 is reconciliation with the masculine, or Murdoch says, finding the inner man with heart. You might think that the heroine has completed her quest, but she's got one more big task. Remember how at the beginning Murdoch told us that the version of masculinity that the heroine adopts is outer, patriarchal masculinity. It's not her true, healthy masculinity. This is where she has to do the big task of reconciling with the masculine inside herself. Murdoch says, the next stage involves healing the unrelated or wounded aspects of her masculine nature as the heroine, 1, takes back her negative projections on the men in her life, so not taking out her patriarchal pain on individual men, and 2, identifying the masculine parts of herself that have ignored her health and feelings, refused to accept her limits, told her to tough it out, and never let her rest. It also involves becoming aware of the positive aspects of her masculine nature. And now we've arrived at the last step. Step 10 is the union, or Murdoch says, beyond duality. In the final stage, the heroine fully accepts and understands both sides of her true nature. She finds balance between both sides and actively works toward keeping that balance.
Just
Murdoch
so you know,
says the heroine must become a...
balance is not beyond 2. That's not how that works.
Yeah. It's 2.
Yeah, it's closing a circle, literally. It's not beyond anything,
warrior.
it's bound.
Oh, it looks like there's a watch party in the pussy parlor.
Oh, yeah?
People are gonna hear pussy parlor and wonder what the fuck that's supposed
That's
to
Richard's server, by the way, for context for anyone.
Yeah, you should probably...
Yeah.
Olivia says balance sounds like repression, not gonna lie. I mean, yeah, it's going back to... Actually, Imran was right to point out the Platonic... This is precisely the Platonic ideal of... oh god, what's the right term? But yeah, it's about the proper balance.
Mm-hmm.
Imran might know the term I'm thinking of.
Is it eudaimonia? I think that was actually your Aristotelian term.
Proper balance? I mean, are you asking for like a Greek term, or do you mean something like equilibrium, homeostatic?
Oh no, I'm thinking of his notion of the Platonic notion of justice. I think.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, I see what you're saying. So justice, in the way that it's conceived in Plato.
No, I don't
Olivia said.
think so. But yeah, no, I was thinking of justice, of justice being things being in their proper place and there being a proper balance.
Sort of. Yes. So, and that's because you're getting to something. Justice is taken from as a kind of geometric relation. So justice is about things being commensurate. So in other words, I mean, literally to your point, justice is about curing imbalances, which is precisely where you get this idea of the blind woman with the scales, right? Scales of justice. Um, yeah, yeah. Sorry, what were we using this to say exactly? What were we doing with this?
She was talking about the integration of the masculine and the feminine and how it's beyond the binary, by having balance of the binary.
Okay, yeah, that's ridiculous.
Also,
It's like
as
saying there's
Bob
no.
said, why is there a masculine or feminine side to her nature? Why are some traits coded like that? It's weird that she addresses this criticism in the beginning and then she just kind of like
Yeah. This is like a hyper
goes
bifurcation.
with it.
Right. And Olivia's point about repression, yeah, so you're supposed to have like a proper normal, like what the proper balance is, even if I don't know whether the author Murdoch makes it like individual, where it's like, the proper amount of masculine and feminine is individual to you. I don't really know if she does that, but it doesn't really
if
matter
you want to get
because
nerdy
either way,
about it,
yeah,
sorry, go on. Either way, what?
yeah. I just mean like I think Olivia's right that it's sort of like, oh, you have to be. It's sort of the Oedipal thing again, right? Oh, you have to be like not too repressed, but properly repressed, right?
Right.
Separate but
repressed
equal.
enough to function. Yeah. There's a limit.
There's separate but equal spirits inside of you.
Well,
There
I
are
mean,
two wolves.
this also has an alignment with capital, where it's like you have to have a certain kind of energetic output, but not so much that you become non-productive, or non in the rational sense of production, delineated by the capitalist mode. It's always this thing of like holding oneself back. In fact, for viewers who are interested, I'm going to keep using that phrase. I wish there was a name for this kind of genre, where it's about basically women entering into this kind of battalion expenditure, who enter into altered states of open madness, states of open
fuck, what's that movie from the 70s?
possession.
Fuck.
Possession. I know
Yes.
you're thinking of possession.
Yes.
Yeah, this is
Yes.
possession down to a T. And in fact, we even see her some kind of substitute enter in and kind of
Or
take
the
up all the relations
substance.
that she leaves off. The substance is another example. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would also point, for those who are more literarily inclined, I would also point to the writings of Clarice Lispector, especially things like The Passion According to G.H. or Near to the Wild Heart, are examples of this. Are examples of women, canonically speaking, canonical women, who are in a sense too much. So if you've ever had a friend who's a woman, you've probably had a conversation, if you had that level of intimacy with them, where they've talked about feeling like too much. Um, and and they put it generally because it happens across in various ways. This too muchness of because this comes back to being a shrew. This comes back to not being properly docile. This comes back to, in a sense, abdicating femininity by way of an excess of expression, where where one feels as if one is in a sense too alive for what is expected of them. And this is a particularly feminine problem. Not to say that men never have this problem. Like there's a history in literature of overly sensitive young men who are at odds with their world. Just look at the Sorrows of Young Werther by Goethe, for example. But there's a particularly feminine history to this. Sorry?
That's exactly what I was just thinking of as well. Yeah.
It's a great little novella. It's a crazy novella. But there's a specifically feminine character to this, where wherein women are in a sense in a lockbox. It's always a question of going beyond some kind of ensnarement by way of social convention, which usually aligns with going crazy. The piano teacher is an example of a kind of this kind of fraying as a result of a long-standing repression. Really good film. I highly recommend everyone check it out. But sorry, what were we talking about? I lost the plot. We were talking about too muchness and femininity. But what was I relating that to? Does anyone remember?
No.
Okay, well, this is a real GSL night we're having right now. Oh, right. Okay. Sorry. I remember now. So in these depictions of the embrace of too muchness and of going beyond the borders of circumscribed femininity, what we see is actually the opposite of a balance. What we see is actually the complete opposite. What we see is the affirmation of life, uh, uh, in a way that makes room for the excessive, in a way that points out that balance is always at some level a kind of restriction, right? Um, there's a Bataillean way to go here, actually, right? Where Bataille says that the moral is always about limitation, and that's relevant here because in this way, the moral, in the sense of that which has been foisted upon women as a kind of official morality they have to follow, is in a sense a series of limitations upon their capacity to act in the world. And so
The point of the
transgression
rebellion,
becomes
the point of the transgression is to find the limits and mark them and obey them.
exactly. And so for Bataille, he says this is precisely evil, insofar as it marks a surpassing of the limits which delimit the good in the way that it's been societally conceived. And so there's a way in which this femininity becomes a kind of alignment with evil, and the way that in which this alignment with evil is finally the kind of the freeing aspect of it. And this is not about balance. This is not about balance, which is always about a certain kind of circumscription of within life. This is about a fuller embrace that goes beyond the bounds of any particular circumscription, and then lives life to its limit. Which is why in Bataille you'll say that when he was looking for more and more experience without posing an end, he felt like he was becoming a mad woman. He specifies a mad woman, which you really have to specify in the French because the French language tends towards it's gendered male, especially if you want to talk in personal ways. And so that's my long-winded digression about this question of balance, of equilibrium, of this completionist narrative of integration and creating this kind of monad of an equilibriate or homeostatic state of something, of some kind of yin and yang thinking or whatever. There's an entirely more interesting, I think, narrative about feminine break and freedom that's about allowing yourself to be excessive.
Well, I mean, like,
To be in surplus.
in this particular context, a monism would actually be refreshing because what we're dealing with is like just this hyper bifurcation, like constantly in all aspects and all categories.
That's true. I agree with that.
But yeah, we should probably finish it out.
Yeah.
This demands that she learn the delicate art of balance and have the patience for the slow, subtle integration of the feminine and masculine aspects of her nature. And that's it. That's the heroine's journey. Breaking Down Patriarchy has almost entirely been about history and definitions, laws, and policies. And I'm proud of that. That information is essential in order to understand unjust systems and build a better world. But the inner work of the psyche, the heart, the intimate relationships.
Does somebody want to take Aaliyah's question in chat?
What is a monad in the philosophical context? I'm only aware of it in computer science. We're kind of like talking about an ontology that is not split in the way that she has been doing throughout this video, where things have essentially feminine or masculine characteristics that are not
essences.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to be more properly philosophical, I agree with what Shershot said. But if you want to know what it tends to be in philosophy, it tends to refer to some kind of self-same, a kind of internally identical kind of unity of some sort. So something that is kind of not in itself split is kind of fully itself identical with itself. In the same way that, for example, if I spill water, from my phenomenological point of view, from my perception, I see this thing as a completely self-identical unity, a kind of self-same thing that isn't actually composed of anything whatsoever. If that makes sense. That's what a monad tends to refer to.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but a
and in fact-
monad is supposed to be like, in terms of what it is physically, it's in contrast to
Mhm.
dualism, where you have like an object's physical properties, and then there's another layer on which it has its qualia, and then a monad is just the everything is contained in one like plane of reality.
Yeah. If you mean like this is what we call substance dualism.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I see.
Yeah. So I mean,
it's a different type of.
yeah. So monadic.
Mhm.
Well, monadic view in this case would mean that everything is precisely one substance. Which is a view that you will find certain philosophers having, yeah, in contrast to a substance dualism. Yeah. That's something else I wanted to say here. Oh yeah. So I mean, the quickest and dirtiest way of thinking about a monad is in contrast to something like a dyad, right? A dyad is what we tend to call the other side of this. So for example, if we talk about dyadic relations in philosophy, we'll often mean that there's a relationship between two discrete things. And we say they have a dyadic relationship. In the fact they relate to each other as discrete things that share some kind of relation, but precisely as two instead of one. If that makes sense for
as
people
Jimbo
listening.
points out, same word as like monism.
Yeah.
Obviously like mono, oneness.
Also, within certain philosophers, another way of thinking about it, and maybe this might be even the most intelligible way, is that the monad is that which is oftentimes irreducible. I think this is closer to something.
Yeah.
For someone like Leibniz, for
indivisible.
example. Yeah. Kind of indivisibility. Yeah, precisely.
I don't think this relates to dialectics.
Well, you can't really have dialectics within a monad because there'd be nothing of itself to cancel out or sublimate, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Like how an integer is indivisible.
Well, 4 is an integer
No.
and it's divisible by 2.
I think every integer is divisible. That's sort of how it.
No.
That's sort of how the axioms of math work.
7.
It'd be more like 0.
I was gonna say, what do you mean by divisible? Usually
Yeah.
in mathematics, when we mean by divisible, it's divisible equally, right? Which is why 7 is quote unquote indivisible.
Yeah.
You can
Equally into
technically divide 7
into whole
Yeah.
parts. Right.
Mhm.
It doesn't carry more information than its quantity. Prime numbers are still divisible by 1 and themselves.
That's not division.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, this is legit philosophy of mathematics right now. Okay, let's continue. I hope we've given you.
We don't about math. Get that shit out of here.
I think
Damn
we've
it.
given at least like 3 different views on the monad, right? It's something that
Okay.
tends to be self-same. It's something that is on the other side of a dyad. It's something that is often indivisible or irreducible from itself. You can keep going, but yes, this is more or less what we talk about with monads.
Okay. Well, the video's over, right? She's just talking about her own channel and shit now, I think.
Yeah. Yay, we've saved heterosexuality.
We did it!
That's what I'm here for, baby.
We did it, everybody.
Happy Pride Month to heterosexuals.
Wait, what's heterosexual month is like shame month, though. You know what I mean? Yeah.
When is heterosexual month? July?
Can we get some golf claps in chat for heterosexual?
No. Well, the
month?
usual answer is that
course.
it's always heterosexual whatever month, except for Pride Month. That's like the usual answer, right? It's like, well, the world is oriented towards you, so it's always heterosexual month.
No, I don't think
Until
so.
it's Pride Month.
I think every month is gay, and Pride Month is extra gay.
Mm-hmm. I think heterosexuals have I don't know. What do we have? What do we have? Sure shot, except for unfulfilled sex lives.
We have Valentine's Day.
Yeah, there it is. Valentine's Day. Beggar. Oh my god.
One of
Oh,
the
Mother's and Father's
shittiest
Day.
holidays ever. Yeah.
You know what's crazy? Is it just me, or do people really like if you don't give if you miss Father's Day, no one really cares. But if you miss Mother's Day, like you
Oh
need to
yeah.
get like people take you out back.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Well, everybody, every proper child resents their father. So.
Yeah, that's true. Yo, I have a question. Question for people
Oh
in
shit!
chat.
I was muted this whole time. I've been talking.
Oh, what
Question
did
for
you want
people
to
in
say?
chat.
Yeah.
If y'all
Oh, that's okay.
if y'all grew up in a household with a kind of central father figure, was there a special chair that you could never sit in
Oh yes.
until you were like
Oh
really old?
yes. Oh
Uh,
yes.
I
Oh,
live
yes.
in a matriarchal family more so. Like our mom is girl boss alpha, and we still have a special chair that only dad can sit in.
See what I mean?
Not only
my
a
gosh.
special chair, not only a special chair like in the living room, but also like a special dinner chair.
Oh, just the dinner chair.
Yeah, and then like the garage also, like you're not supposed to go into the garage up to a certain point, and like you have to like ask permission and stuff. Oh my god, there's so much shit like that with like
Honestly, Value's Last Tango says the recliner. Yeah, the lazy boy.
yeah,
And it was
yeah,
always just
the
one
lazy-
recliner. That's the
See-
craziest. That was the biggest scandal. The only one recliner in the household, and it wasn't yours.
yeah, the Archie Bunker shit.
Yeah.
So Bob, the thing is, the best analog for a monad in mathematics would just be the number one. That's unfortunately where I don't know what else you would really go to, or a point. If you're gonna go like in terms of like mapping, a point.
A coordinate, yeah.
Yeah, a coordinate would work.
But why are we talking about mathematics, chat? I
Hey,
don't
that's what we do
understand.
here.
Math is fun.
We're
Are we
having
paying
fun.
attention?
Should we move on to the other video, or do we want to wrap it up here?
Let's wrap it up
I
here
think we're done
and
with this
get
one.
back with
Yeah.
and watch the other video next week.
Or tomorrow?
Tomorrow I
Damn,
have
eager,
reading
huh?
group, probably.
Okay. Okay, we can talk. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll talk.
Okay.
Um,
Should we do quick call-in segment if people want to call in, ask questions, chat about the video, chat about shit in general?
Yeah, you can call in and talk about almost anything except math.
mhm.
Please don't call in and talk about math, please.
Yeah, in the GSL. If you want to call in, click on the waiting room, join the voice in the waiting room, and we can drag you in.
All right, any brave souls?
Well, Imran said his phone died.
Imran's dead. Can we get an Imran death animation?
It's like a random spear out of the sky. Like,
No, I'm thinking more like a Family Guy fallen and you can't get up.
Oh,
or like an anvil or something.
hmm. We need a math stream, says Aaliyah.
No, we don't. No, we don't.
I'm down for a little math.
I want to show you guys the math project that I did in calculus. It was like a little
Ooh.
movie where I made puppets, and then we had our puppets of all our group members rescue our teacher who got kidnapped by College Board, who is represented by a vampire. College Board stole all the fives from our exams, or something like that. This is AP BC Calc, for those that are familiar. So we animated everybody like solving calculus problems, in order to like unlock obstacles that were trapping our teacher.
Hey, sure shot. Be nice to people in chat. Come on. Just because it seems obvious doesn't mean it is. We spend a lot of
Well, there is like a certain sense where like you spend time at length talking about something, and then like somebody's sitting there, and then like 5 minutes later they're like, they ask a question about the thing that you literally just talked about.
Yeah, but there's a lot that's said. It can be hard to remember keep all of that information in your working memory.
Yep. And how the points relate to each other, etc. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's potentially a thing for a dyad. What a dialectic is going to vary by author. Obviously, Hegel is pretty famous for his dialectic, but it's not the only dialectic.
Mm-hmm.
And dialectics don't. I guess depending on how you want to talk about it, you could say dyads are
It could
dialectical
be,
just because there's two things interacting.
yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
not going to be the thing that most people are talking about when they're talking about dialectics. So that's why I said it's like potentially a dyad or potentially dialectic. It just
Mhm.
is going to depend on how you're talking about it.
Why is there a distinction between what?
I think I just explained that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, I mean
Between
the
dyad
types.
between dyad and monad.
No, between dyad and dialectic.
Oh,
Yeah, I think I just covered that.
okay.
Collins, if you want to call in, join the waiting room, and we'll
Mhm.
drag you in.
Yeah, I don't think people are going to. It's been a
Okay.
little bit. Yeah. That's okay. We had a couple of people last time and the time before that, so it's fine. Not every time.
Yeah.
People are available. Yeah, this has been a good stream. Close to exactly 3 hours. Yeah. I think we
I'm
got
curious
some
what
good
chat thinks
engagement.
of the choice of video.
Mm-hmm.
What did you guys think of this video and the discussion? Because we'll probably be going over at least one of her videos in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we need your opinions.
Chat.
Yeah.
We want to slurp up your brain juice. Come on.
Thank you, Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, seems like people are interested. Cool.
That's good. Thank you for engaging.
And with that, rip to Emron. And any last things before we sign out, Richard?
No, I think we leave.
Okay, thank you all for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday afternoon, evening, or I guess Thursday morning if you live in some place far away. Have a good night.